Right, it is Snake and Banter, and it's the Major. So Anders isn't hired, so he was available. That's good and bad. Good for us, bad for Anders, and bad for his bottom line, but it's all good. You're here now. At least you're still part of the scene, sort of. I tell myself as Corp.
They haven't kicked me out yet. They can't.
Okay.
It takes a while to get somebody like me out.
Well, to be fair, here's the difference between me and you. If I don't get hired, yeah, it sucks for me. I'll have to just go on. You just get out the smallest violin in the world. Na, 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 na. Roses coming down. The screen goes all waxy. You start remembering, remember Semler and fucking Moses and remember all the good times, Nip TV. Remember Nip TV? Right. They're like, mate, we barely remember Nip. Never mind Nip TV. Anyway, the point is that you just get hired again. You play on everyone's heartstrings. Tell you what, Anders, no one knows. But you know what? You are secretly the master manipulator of Counter-Strike. No one knew. Yeah,
you got to be, but also you're leaving one thing out, which is the fact that we do live the best time ever to be unemployed. You know, you've got amazing drama content all the time. Like you got Kassad tweets that like I can read the comments on those for days, and I'm entertained. You know,
true. Especially because now we've even reached the point where it doesn't even have to be something topical. He'll just be like, do you remember when? It's like, I don't, but I'll tell you what, listen, I bought the ticket. One ticket on the Kassad Express, wherever it's going, all the stops, please. I'm just ready, mate. Listen, choo-choo, go ahead. Wherever it's going, Maui, I'm going with it until it goes over the edge of that cliff and then me and you have to jump off at the last second and then who knows what happens to that show. But that's in the future. Don't worry about that now. It definitely won't happen. It'll probably all be great. See you all in the year.
Kassad's really the water cooler talk for us when we're at events. We all just pull it up while we're just like in between maps or whatever and we're like, hey, y'all see that new Kassad tweet? Then we all just have...
Oh, you know what's sad about that? That means he's also jacked my swagger, because I used to be the guy where if I wasn't at the event, you'd just be like, oh, it's just on day one, Thorin's just said the whole event's shit and ESL are corrupt us. And they're like, oh, cool. And then the producer person's looking at her like... and all my friends have to pretend like, yeah, he's probably just joking or something, isn't he? Me tweeting like, definitely not joking. Fuck ESL. Anyway, whatever. It's all good. It's all good. But anyway, enough about trips down memory lane. Old shit like that's not relevant now, like Anders Kassad tweets. Except me working at events.
Get the fuck out.
Let's get into the modern day. So Anders, I actually have a question for you though, which goes like this. You did work the last major though. So actually, this is edgy. Now you'll have to just do his poker face. Did you think you were going to get hired for this major?
I mean, I thought there was a chance for sure, but I mean, like we just have such a crazy abundance. I know this is not what you want to hear, but like I think my challenge has been, just to be honest, I've been working with so many different people that I think it's a bit of an obstacle to some TOs. They just don't know, like, is it Anders and who? Like, are they getting Anders and whoever? Like Vince and I've been doing a lot of casting. I've been really enjoying that. Actually, I figured you and I didn't see that Vince move coming, right? Like, if you could choose a clone of yourself to work with, that's right up your alley. That's basically what I did.
Some would say you played to my ego here. My dream was a whole desk of me. Just me as the host, me as the other analyst, and then me going, great point, Thorin. Anyway, thanks, Thorin. What do you think, Thorin? Well, here's what I think, Thorin. That's a hilarious point, Thorin. You're a great analyst, Thorin. Thank you, Thorin. Anyway, the joke is, by the way, if you guys ever aren't available, I should just do it. You know how I did that episode, Anders, for like my 100th reflections, where I just interviewed myself? I should do an episode of Snake and Banter where I'm just all the three guests as well. Like, I should actually do one like that, where like, and but I'll make it like I'm slightly sort of like, fucking like multiple personalities or something. Like I disagree with myself on some point, or like I don't know what the angle would be.
There's got to be one person in your community that knows something about AI. They just train an AI on your tweets, and then that's the other analyst. There's just the AI Duncan.
Oh, low key, I have just realised that is the one thing I am afraid of. That's why I've got to, in some way, keep actually all the avenues open. People like me and Kassad, our Twitters are cooked if they ever really train those AIs. We've got a lot of tweets out there as well. Like they could, back in the day, they made those bots that tried to do the same thing. They just jumbled together like half your tweets in the past. But usually it didn't work. It it wouldn't make sense what the sentence was. The problem is they could probably do that now. Like the sad thing is, I've done so many on certain topics, Fallen, fucking Simple. I've done so many tweets and videos. You probably actually could accurately predict an opinion I haven't yet expressed. Yeah. Like that's the one thing I'm low-key worried about. Like you can have a magic 8-ball of Thorin that could actually wait,
It's the future. That's the future we're all coming to for the desk. For casting as well. Like you probably could do like 90% of casting from an AI,
And
Well,
as
right.
people in my past might have remarked, that sounds like a great weekend. Magic, an 8-ball, and Thorin. But enough about that anyway. So let's get into the actual event, shall we? Oh yeah, by the way, here's the one last thing to say, Anders. I know what you need to do now, mate. I'm going to teach you a little bit about the dynamics of the industry. Because you used to be at the top. You used to be the emperor. It didn't matter if you had no clothes. No one would tell you that. They would just go, lovely outfit then. Great tunic, Anders. Yes, it is.
Very true.
So here's what you need to do, Anders. I've figured it out. The only one who does get hired to all the events is bloody Maui, isn't it? You know, back in the day when Maui was just breaking through and he was doing that thing to you, like you were way bigger, so he was like, hey, maybe we could like cast and be like a duo or something. And you were like, yeah,
I don't think it was my idea.
Obviously not. It's a joke. And he was all like, well, maybe for this event, Maui, but aside from that, at the moment I'm trying to fuck Moses off and get this other person or whatever he was saying. I don't know. I'm trying to speculate. I wasn't there in the room. The point is now you should go the other way, Anders. You should go, hey, Maui. Remember the good times? Remember those blast game? We should duo. Yeah, we could be. I could even be on the desk.
I wouldn't mind. If some TO actually would hire,
that would be a good. That would be a good duo.
It'd be fun. Sure. We had some good moments. We casted in front of the Washington D.C. crowd. We casted like a whole season or two of Blast premiere stuff. So yeah, no, it was good. I personally liked it a lot.
Sign it up. You know what? Like my real play, I think, is just to wait. Like nobody survives very long in esports. There's always somebody getting cancer. So I just, as long as I survive, it's gonna be just fine.
Okay. That has worked for you so far. Not having any public scandals. I just put the square brackets in there.
Nice.
public.
That is the secret. You're right.
Yeah. And also, I even think if they have an event there again, recreate the duo because I know Anders really wants to go to Washington DC and meet Michelle Obama. By the way, you have to understand, Murray, my whole style with Anders is because he doesn't have the edgy personality in public. I just throw him hand grenades the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? How are you going to deal with this one?
The door for me. It's like, what's behind this door? Oh, okay. Whole world of political scandals. Let's go.
And then, to be fair, if you know some of our green rooms, you can even say the iconic line, Mr. Obama, get down! That famous line. Anyway, old school 4chan meme there. Whatever. Let's start the fucking episode and talk about CS, shall we? So, okay. Obviously, the major's going on. So, Anders, what is good right now? What's good in CS?
What's good? I think, as you said, I've been unemployed, and when I am employed, it's Tier 2 Counter-Strike. But you know what? Tier 2 Counter-Strike is a lot better than it used to be. The teams that are in there, they don't just... I mean, every once in a while you get like the super fraggers that are coming up, but even the average Tier 2 player that's playing in some CCT tournament, they come now pre-made with all the grenades, they know all the strategies, they know all the basics of the game. They play more Counter-Strike than any human should,
Yes.
but it just means you don't have to educate them. So I'm just saying that the quality of the Counter-Strike there, the protocols they run, I would say the precision with which they run them is so high. It's actually wild. Teams you've never heard of and players you've never heard of are just looking, they're looking so well drilled. So I actually think that's amazing for the scene overall. That's my good point.
Okay. By the way, is there any just to make it a bit longer? Is there any like specific ones that are coming to mind that you've enjoyed recently, or that are kind of making you think of that?
I mean, I would say so. I have a whole sub arc going on about Polish Counter-Strike. There's this team called Venom. There's another team called Oromund. Both those teams, in my opinion, look really, really good. It's another sort of CIS. They're all CIS teams, by the way, in some one way or another.
Yeah, there's loads.
But there's this team called K27. They've got a new opera called Cashlid, who is actually kind of wild. But again, like even if you just look away from the individual stars and you just look at how they actually cooperate and how they work together, it's really sick. So I think that's something that was missing. It used to be a meme that you'd say, okay, well, now that we got like a really good tier 2 player, we have to bring them into tier 1 and we have to teach them real Counter-Strike. But I would say they know a lot about that already, like way more than they did even 3 years ago. It's crazy.
It's strange watching tier 2 teams play tier 1 teams because sometimes like what you're saying is their game plan just works. But I feel like the tier 1 teams, like I think a great example of this is FaZe throughout the last couple years where they play a tier 2 team. I mean, maybe I can't speak on what has just recently happened to them at this major because their form looks really bad. But I would say, the ROPS lineups, the ones that were winning a lot more, as they were kind of having their so-called era. I just feel like if you're a good team that can just be a little flexible and you can look at what the tier 2 teams do, I don't think that the tier 2 teams have the depth necessarily. They do what they want to do at a very effective rate, and that's why they can play against other tier 2 teams really well. But I think an example, well, I'll get to it in my good point, I guess, is like there are teams that in that realm that I just think they've ironed out a lot of the way they want to go about things. But to me, I've been trying to think about what the difference between tier 1 and tier 2 is when we have so many upsets, especially in stage 1, stage 2 of the major. And to me, it's more like versatility over long periods of time paired with strong individual players who either have experienced all these wealth of plays before and know how to react, or they're just flat out cracked. So I think the tier 2 teams are usually just lacking that. But no, I do think that we've been having the discussion for probably around since the Rio Major, in my opinion, for when we started saying, okay, the gap between tier 2 and tier 1 is really shrunk a lot, as those tier 2 teams have so much data and so much footage to work off of, and they can really look at a tier 1 team and say, we want to model our game after this, and we're going to also be grinding harder because we need to rise up in the ranks, so we're going to add these little bits of flair. And that's what makes it really difficult to play against them at first, except for the super heavy veteran teams that are just so well-rounded that it's very hard to catch them off guard.
By the way, I do agree. I do think Tier 2 now is the best it has ever been in the history of Counter-Strike. I'll take everyone on a very brief history lesson. If you think actually that RMRs were scoffed like I did because of the regions and then silly things like they also had BO1s and weird seeding and stuff like that, right? And also the fact that it's just that one tournament, you could be the best team in the world, you could fail it. Bro, the original majors... when I explain to you how you qualified for those, it will actually highlight how bad Tier 2 was, right? If you weren't, after the first major, in the top 8 that got the automatic invite, you used to literally just play on online qualifier. Now, that sounds mad until you realise every single good team would get through the qualifier. It almost was never the case that a randy Tier 2 team just beat them and got to the line. So actually, you might not know, but back then, people were going through online qualifiers and mad shit like that. And then, even then, when we had the lands, etc., like, pretty much every good team would make it through. You might have like one goal 3-0 instead of 3-2, but you would very rarely ever have, like, there was no Bad News Eagles back in the day. That didn't exist. Like, the joke is the closest really was that one time that Splice team made it and then just got banged out immediately. That's about the only one I can even think of. Because obviously I'm not counting all those like CIS ones, because a lot at the time we just didn't know the CIS regions. We only knew Na'Vi and fucking Gambit or whoever else. Like, no one really knew those teams. So actually I do think the level is way higher. And then also, as you're saying, this is something actually when Ash came up with Gamer Legion, he was talking to me about. He actually said, and I agree with him, there are advantages to being in Tier 2, bizarrely and counterintuitively, which is, if you think of the Vitalities, who basically, aside from when like a Blast has an online phase, they never play online, ever. They just scrim and go to lands. In fact, they even skip lands. The point is, this is mad because this never existed before. Back in the day, the people who played the most CS, you play a lot of CS in qualifiers, but the most CS that's valuable was to be at lands, is to be at lands and go deep. So Astralis probably played the most maps, I would guess, or back in the day, it might have been the French teams. In the modern day, the absolute best teams in the world never play online. So actually, if they skip events, they might play half as much in terms of maps as these Tier 2 online teams. They play a billion fucking games. And the beauty of that is, this is another thing the Ash guy pointed out, is that it means actually modern innovation comes from Tier 2 first. It doesn't come top down that we all copy Virtus Pro strats like back in the day on strats. Now what happens is a smoker gets developed in these 1 billion, you're essentially doing the... Obviously, I'm not talking about any nationalities here. The fucking a million monkeys with a million typewriters type scenario until you just get like every strat design, because you're just having so many games of people with... By the way, here's another thing. Even Tier 2 teams have coaches, boys. Even 2 Tier teams have analysts. Even they do fucking VOD reviews. So you just get like all this stuff, new strats, new fucking smokes developed. I also do think as well, when it is online, as the NIPs and the Fnacs of the world found out, oh, bro, they don't just walk through those tournaments online now. Like, it's actually fucking hard. Just ask Simple. He barely ever wins those online cops. Like, there's always some fucker gets him. Because I actually think the dynamics reversed. Back in the day when you played the LAN team and you're some guy who's played CS for 2 years, you've never been to a LAN, you're scared even online to play against those people. In the modern day, I think actually the LAN team has the disadvantage. They're the ones that have that stupid cope we had back in the day of like, who cares, I'm better on LAN. Like, in this online game, mate, you need to win this one. You actually have to get your VRS up, etc.
Well, here's just to add to that, right? So you brought up Simple, and so actually they played this K27 team, and this guy actually, I swear he was hunting Simple on the map, and he won every single fight. He wasn't hiding; he was excited to play him, and you could just tell. There's one of those moments which we all know what that's like. If you really get a chance to take a shot at someone you kind of admire and maybe who is a hero, it's also great to be able to bring them down. And I think that's pretty much what he was doing on that map. And yeah, like they just look really good. Then they're not at all the only team that's there. I will say this as well. I don't know what you guys think about this, but just if you look at the amount of maps played for some of the big teams coming into tournament, sometimes you'll see like a really big team, like a Navi or a FaZe or something, and it says like, oh, they played Dust 2 4 times in the last 3 months. Obviously, they're going to be practicing, and that's not going to show there. But it just, when you look at these tier 2 teams, we're not talking 4 times. They play 32 games of Dust 2 alone, and they play all the maps. It's there's obviously some upper limit where it's too many maps played, but damn, they are never slow to start. They're always just so sharp and ready because they just play an infinite amount of Counter-Strike.
Okay. I will now... Oh, it's Maui's point, actually. What's your point then, Maui?
Yeah, mine is just the team that I've been focusing on the most because going into the major was... there was all these rumblings, especially from when we talked to Messioso about PARIVISION and who they were, how they got into the major. Looking at their run into the major, I'm going to be completely honest, I thought it was a little bit fraudulent, given that they didn't beat any top 20 teams at all the whole season until after the major cutoff. Because you can look back and they beat Gentlemates once online, but that was actually after they were already invited. But like Messioso said on our podcast before, it's because they kind of gamed the VRS system. But so then once I started taking a close look at them before the major, there were certain aspects of them that I liked. It was still somewhat idiosyncratic to how I would characterize Jame calling. I know some people say that it's not exactly what it was like in VP way back in the day, and I'll say that it's not. It's a little bit less. I think there's less of a specific focal point player. Like there's no Yekindar 1-to-1 player on this team. There's entry fraggers. They have a couple guys that will run entry for them, but they're pretty good. I mean, they're pretty good to watch, and I think they're my good point in general right now. I'm really surprised that they actually got by Legacy at the end because I thought push come to shove, late round game, overtime, I thought that's when Legacy was going to turn it on and close them out. But because there's 4 rookies on the side of PARIVISION, so to see people like Noda, Bielchonok all pop off at the end, I was thoroughly impressed by that, and I feel like that is something that comes down from Jame and also Dastan. The fact that when he calls timeouts, it feels like they find themselves so much more centered. So I think a lot of people kind of went overboard from the tier 2 space saying like how good PARIVISION was coming into this, the run that they were on. And they didn't clearly fly through this stage with a 3-0 or anything like that, which seemingly some people still thought was going to happen because they had a really nice streak coming into it. But they looked really good. I think the BO3s were really a blessing for them versus Gamer Legion versus Legacy. That game, I mean, if they just got through the stage in a weird way, if they got through the stage 3-0 by just winning 2 BO1s and only 1 BO3 versus like an M80 or a FlyQuest, I might have had actually a harder time believing in this team. But taking down Gamer Legion then Legacy, to me that builds more credibility than had they have just breezed through it. And I think they're making it through the next stage. I'm pretty impressed.
That's a bold pick.
Yeah, I put them. They were like my last team. They were my last team to make it, but I think they're gonna make it to the next one too.
Yeah, actually, I have them going through as well. I was pretty excited about them too. I think there's a lot. I think Belchanok is just he is a phenomenal player, and I don't think we've even seen the top level of him at the moment. And maybe something else that shouldn't really be a surprise, but I've got to be honest as well. And maybe I'm partly responsible, or maybe the collective like analyst and casting staff are, but we memed this whole Jame time so much up that we just forgot he actually just is a super intelligent player. In some of those clutch moments, it's crazy. Like there are some players on a server where if I was against them, I mean, obviously me, it's just who I am. I would be scared no matter what. But if I was another professional player against somebody like Jame, I'd be so worried. I would all the time be thinking, there's a really good chance he's outsmarting me in some way that I haven't even thought about. Like he's got this weird ability to find a way to clutch around that just doesn't seem like it's available. And actually, it's really interesting. You can even hear in the casting, like when I'm listening to, whoever is casting the game at the major now, like you can hear that they are, and I'm surprised too, like everyone's surprised. Why did he do that? Like he just picked a different route than everyone thought. Like he just decided to go back and, planted the site that he was originally at. Like it's so hard to see what the next step is. So yeah, we should probably give him a lot. It's just that it's such a good, like the James saving the AWP is such a great meme that it's hard to get rid of it, but I fully agree. Like he's definitely way smarter than maybe we've given him some credit for.
I'll even start there. Like, that's also, by the way, how I can tell if you're someone who either doesn't watch CS and you just post on forums, or you watch but it's just flashing lights to you and you don't understand the game. Anyone who actually thinks he's doing the gym time shit, like, first of all, individually he doesn't even do it that much. The team doesn't play at all like Virtus Pro. I don't even know where that takes come from, bro. Like,
no.
They play CS too. Like, if you saw in that Legacy game, for example, they push through smokes, they attack early, they fucking just let people do like a crazy flank while they're attacking. They don't play like old fucking VP. Like, that's the joke really is, if anything, when he left, like the ghost of whatever that style was inhabited into Electronic, and he did all that shit. Like, that was the weirdest thing. So I actually think him and Dastan look like they have updated their playbook to whatever CS2 is. Even though, look, I'm not going to go as far as people do. Like, people are trying to make it sound like he had like the Fallen turnaround. Like, he's not going to fucking win the major, boys, or be in like the playoffs or something. Like, that's a bit too far. Like, I don't have him going through personally, but I will give it to that. I do think actually that the team plays proper CS. It's fun to watch. Like, it's way better than the VP. It's not that shit of like just boring. I do agree with Anders though. The area he is still Jim is the clutches though. I do think this is the one area he is like Jesus, if people want to make that incredibly blasphemous fucking comparison, which is he is actually like an iconoclast. Like, he clearly does think about the game differently to other people, Anders, because I know what you mean. First of all, when you play Jim, it's not like you think, wow, like he's too skilled, I can't possibly fight. The problem is that you see, you never know where he's going to be or what angle, because you can't put your brain into however he thinks about the game. And especially, I've always said, he actually, this is why, by the way, this is why I hated him saving in CSGO. He's always been a very good clutch round player with the AWP. Like, if he didn't insist on saving it, his problem was, if he went for every 1v3 like Simple did, bro, he'd have won a lot. He actually, his ability to like create an off angle you didn't even think of is fucking sick. I know what you mean. And that's another thing. When you die to Jim, the other thing that pisses you off is like you're saying, you just feel like he got outwitted. It's like you think, right, I can push him now. And then he's just waiting for that off angle, which kills you easily. You're like, oh, fuck, why did I do that? Like, it was obviously there, but it's only obvious after the fact, mate.
Predicting the next Jane move is like predicting the Kassad tweet. You can't.
There you go. Okay.
You're out.
It's just off of decades of experience.
True. And he's just pulling off angles out of nowhere. You're like, I didn't even know that angle existed. Holy shit.
Where Kassad chooses masculinity, James chooses passivity.
Okay. He's more zen.
But I'll say this as well. I think since we're glazing them anyway, I think their CT sides are actually. It's not that they're necessarily revolutionizing the CT side, but they're one of the teams that will do some of the basic work that I have no idea why the top level teams don't do. Like, you play to get a refrag if you die, so you can trade the kill. You flash your way in to retake a little bit of control, or maybe just to get one kill on a corner, and then that's it. Like, then they play a little more passively. But some of the basic stuff that I see really high level teams just don't do, and that's annoying. So yeah, I'm positively disposed to this team right now for sure.
Also, I actually will say, in terms of the players, the thing people are missing is, it's only Jame. The rest are all mega inexperienced players. These were nobodies before. So first of all, it's actually kind of cool because it's like a malleable set of players. But also, that's why I don't go too crazy about the fact a few of them have failed. Like, spoiler, the AW guy is absolutely bled out of his ass at this fucking major and probably should be at home. But I'll tell you what, the Zalo guy turned up. He actually looked fucking good, mate. Yeah, and there's something there in the game. I know. That's one of those ones where it's like, I'm willing to believe, listen, I don't have them going through, boys, but I could believe they can like level up a little bit as they get more experience at the LAN and they play more matches. And also, as you pointed out there, when you actually look who they played, bearing in mind that accurate angle from Messi also, that they barely played anyone online, mate, the teams they beat were some of the better teams on that first stage. Like, those were some of the real squads. Remember, some people thought Legacy could probably even make some crazy playoff run or something. Bait's actually a legit team. Like, these are some, like, real teams you're playing against. So, no, I have respect. Actually, they did do a pretty good job. And as I said, the irony of all ironies is after all those years of me ragging on him saving, with that last fucking overtime, he saved my pick'ems. That was my last one I needed. And believe it or not, I live in a bizarro world of CS2, where Carrigan betrays my pick'ems and James saves them. What the fuck is even going on right now, bro? What even is this? What year is this? So anyway, right, I have got my point, and my point's a simple one, but it's just essentially, I'll give you the inside scoop here, boys. It's just a chance to glaze a bunch of good players that we all like. One of the things I think is the best about stage one of the major is, despite all the upsets, and by the way, it definitely delivered how on day one, it's like, well, just may as well put all the names in a hat and pick them out. Like, there you go, they win the game. No, it doesn't matter what the veto was. It doesn't matter if the team's like Red Canids or something. People are just winning games that don't even, like, I challenge anyone without psychic ability ability and put like some quiz at Haderach to actually predict those games. You can't. Like the only one I predicted from the veto was like M80 would upset the first one. That was it. That's the only angle I found. I'll bet all on the favourites, boys, because they should all have won. But I'll tell you what, if you ever go and look beyond the weird people who had like, easy runs and just fed on people, I'll tell you what my good point is. All the stars of stage one turned up for me, boys. Like, if I think of each team that I care about at this tournament, their best player, like, Jim is one of them. Jim is one of the best players on PARIVISION. Kaspersky on NIP is a fucking stud. Yeah. Lato on Legacy is fucking bonkers. You go down the list. Who else am I taking? Twists and Frozen. As shit as Fierce was, they were cooking, bro. Like, pretty much all the stars. You know what? Even as shit as Gamer Legion were, PR was still good. Like, that's one thing I really appreciate. Because at the Major, I want to see people play their best CS. Even if your team can't win, I want to see the best players pop off. I don't want it to just be like decenty top frags. It's like, I want to see the best players do it,
Yeah, I mean, that was the one game that Frozen basically carried them through on Nuke, right? Which was is totally wild to see. And that was, I mean, that does make the game a lot of fun to watch. Like, it's obviously not the major winning phase version that you want to see, because it can't just be one player doing it. But that was obviously incredibly entertaining. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know who else. I'm trying to think about who else has been impressing me throughout the run so far. For the different teams. Obviously, I mean,
I'll give you one. How about Tri from Imperial? He was good too. Almost every name I like turned up at this one. I was loving it.
I was going to say, like, the FlyQuest, boys as well were obviously playing super well. Like Regali, I think, had a couple of super crazy games.
By the way, Regali, if you want to know, this is just where remember the HLTV rating can be weird. His KD is 2.04 for that stage. Like, you are aware, guys, that even Donk doesn't do that. I mean, true, he played bad teams. Again, he just played South American teams. But no, I agree. Like, remember, if we go back a few years ago, Regali was literally a literal OG player that was like, can I come to a LAN? No, unless it's Blast. Like, he was one of those guys. It's like, he wasn't even relevant. So, no. What do you think, Maui?
Yeah, we got a lot of... I think it's kind of a sign that the skills in CS2 are being honed in a way that provides more consistency. Because in the beginning, I felt like things were a little bit more topsy-turvy. Obviously, there was an aspect of who's grinding CS2 harder at the beginning, which is why... No offense to JL, but I felt like him being one of the best players for CS2's first year just kind of came out of nowhere. There were a couple sort of wonky players that just felt like they were
there was a point where you could have argued in the beginning of like 2024, like Gel was better than like Nico or something mental, but it's probably true.
That was a serious conversation.
There was a time when like Norbert was better than half the players. It was weird at the beginning of the game, I remember. It was a bit wacky, wasn't it? True.
Yeah, so I think that that now it's just that there's more stability in it, which I think is actually, in a weird way, I would parlay it into just being that CS2 just feels more stable and regular now, that it's not, people have mastered it in a way that at the beginning it felt very difficult to. It was always just like, who's going to swing faster? I think the only thing that, kind of a tangent, but I think the only thing that still probably is desired for me in CS2 is that I just still think opping. Yeah, it's like, you have like the 5 best. I felt like I was actually talking to Double Walk about this in the green room, that it's just like, you have your elite 5 oppers who are just blowing everybody away. And before, in CSGO, you kind of had these, like, the 6 to 15 best oppers in the world were still really good.
Bro, think about how many episodes we used to say stuff like, when Zorti going to get to... There was like about 20 people that were interested. Now, the joke is, I also make that tweet. It's sort of true. There's not even 5 elite oppers. There's like 5 good oppers, feels like. Yeah. What? That's in it. I know.
Yeah, so great riflers continue to have great skills across multiple tournaments, but no shame to Regali. He came into this event with, I think, a 1.04 rating, so for him to do this well is just... This is a little bit of an aberration for him, but but for the riflers, I agree. Yes, there was a lot of really, like, Blame F, Twist, Hex. I mean, Hex was good on M80. Lake was really good on M80, so it was nice to see them kind of carry that sort of form. You already named a bunch of the guys. I mean, I don't think you named MPL from Bait, but he's just been their best player the entire year. Yep. So for him to be clearly their best player at this event too is just already great. Yeah, no, it's really sick to see that. I don't know, maybe in a bad or ugly point we can touch on a couple people that maybe didn't show up.
There's some coming, don't worry. Now also, I agree, there were some people who actually, at this tournament, They powered through, mate. They were money in the bank. But I'll tell you what, if I wanted a power bank or money in my pocket, then I'd want to do something with this wallet. See this wallet here, Maui?
Yeah, of course. You want to say about that? Of course. Okay, no, yes, I was gonna bring it up, of course. The fact that we are, of course, sponsored by Ridge. You can get your own Ridge products on ridge.com/snake. So head there and you can actually get or take advantage of Ridge's biggest sale of the year, get up to 47% off with our code, which is just massive because I feel like we've talked about the Ridge products before. I'll tell you about it again. I'm going to say the wallet's great, but I've been using this power bank so frequently, especially on flights. I love just having a power bank that I can charge with USB-C, and then it has a little kickstand so it just magnetizes. I can charge in two ways. I can either use it with the kind of magnetic cordless type of charging, so I just stick it on the back of my phone, and then I just use the kickstand to hold it up while I'm on an airplane and just watch whatever I want to watch on my phone. Or I can have either a USB-C or a lightning connector on it, so there's just three ways that I can charge a device through the singular battery, and it's great. I mean, I literally just carry it in my pocket. It's not too bulky or anything like that compared to a phone. And on top of that, of course, you guys have the Ridge wallets too. They just came out with their Ridge Wallet 2.0, which is even 10% lighter than the previous stuff. And now, I mean, it's got the cash strap, the money clip. You can attach an air tag to it in case you end up or you're clumsy or you just misplace things all the time. Doesn't matter. And the Ridge 2.0 wallet comes in all these different shapes colors, really.
Yeah.
More colors, designs, carbon fiber, aluminum, so many different ways to get it. So yeah, go to ridge.com/snake. Take advantage of the year's biggest sale with up to 47% off using our code SNAKE. Follow the link in the description below or scan the QR code. That's even easier.
Yes. And I can confirm, I was checking while you were doing that because I know they have all the colours. You can also get a wonderful pink wallet in case you want to show off, who you are. Just be yourself. That's all we say on this show. Just be yourself. Express who you are. And also,
I'm going to get one for Jackie.
I think Anders should get one because I know he would like to finally experience an esports. His wallet being 10% lighter. So...
Exactly right. That's a great point. I love that you bring that up again.
The problem with me, guys, you have to realize. I know the problem with me is I do the jokes which are like that's funny, but also mildly hurtful. Why did you say that? It's like, sorry, I'm just me. It's just who I am. This is why Anders. You're the one who taught me this, mate. Which is, there's a lot of people in esports in the industry love me. But in small doses, it's like the more distance you get away, the more fondly you remember all the good times, how fun it is. When it's like when you're locked in the Twickenham arena and you have to see me every day for 8 hours, maybe gets old at that point,
Should also say I did accept myself. I did consent to being here. I've known you for more than 10 years
it's
now.
True.
I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Because you remember, Anders, that mad thing. One of the weirdest early conspiracies in esports, by the way, Maui, was the notion that when they used to have casters come on the desk. Well, remember, that was when I was in my pump, mate. The whole point of the desk was I was roasting everyone, throwing banter. People used to always write comments that were like, if you look at Anders' face, he's doing like a micro expression. You can tell he actually really despises Thorin and hates him. And he'd be like, what? It's like, well, they're better friends in the fucking scene. What are we talking about? But whatever. It was funny. It was a funny conspiracy story, though.
Yeah.
It was like some, blink twice for if you need us to evacuate you, Anders, like an air vacuum out of this motherfucker. And also, as we actually discussed before the show went live, it wasn't even people out on the desk that were getting the worst from me. It was producers. It was the people who I talked to when they made... I mean, here's the thing. People don't know. My biggest trigger is either lights in my motherfucking eyes or sound in my ears. Like, actually, that reminds me, one of the maddest stories ever, I think it was actually an event Anders wasn't at, though, unfortunately, was this event they had that, like, EFRAG ran in Serbia called the World Championship. It was one of those Nations Cups type thing. And the maddest thing about this was, this might be one of my number one event trigger stories. They had a thing, Maui, where in this arena, this like old, sort of Soviet theatre or something, well, it wouldn't be, I don't know if it means Soviet or whatever, but it was like from the 70s or 80s or something. It's like an old-fashioned one. We were on like the third layer up of like seats and stuff where you're on like a balcony type area looking over somewhere. And the problem was, because the fans were on the layer below, the lights that come up like that, lights just do that when you do like the blue and white, they were designed for the people on the bottom floor. So unfortunately, their apex would hit right into our retina like that, where we were sat, where we had to sit and watch the games. I tried changing seats, it never worked. And so essentially, I was paid to watch the games, but if I did my job, it was like I was just getting retinal scanned the whole time, like every 3 seconds. And this is the maddest detail of all. Because this event was a shit show, at the very end of the event, someone who was like a producer came at the end and said something mental like, how's everything going then? And then we obviously all just unleashed like, what are you talking about? Fucking shit, it's in my eyes, everything. And he goes, right, at the end of like day 3 of the whole event, he goes, oh, they didn't tell you where the green room is? And there was actually like a private green room that none of us got to use because no one told us it existed. Like backstage, where you can watch the games with none of the fucking lights in your eyes. And that's why, because at the time there was like some song that was like, why would you go and put stars in their eyes? I had a song like that with Richard Lewis, like, why are they shining lights in my eyes? Because the other thing back in the day was you have to make humour out of it, otherwise you just die, don't you? Let's say trench humour at that point in time was, you just got to get through it. You do whatever you can to get through it. It's all good. It's all good. Anyway,
go on. Just a real quick follow-up. I just want to say,
on.
if I ever looked nervous, standing next to you on any kind of broadcast or anything, it was never because I was worried about what you were going to say. It was more, the nervousness always came from the idea that you were going to say something that was just edgy enough, and then I'd be laughing, and then
exactly.
Yes. Like, why is he like he's complicit?
It's why I did Maui a favour. I tell him, like, poker face Maui, don't react to this in any way. I know.
Don't do it.
I've tried not to get. I've learned now not to get other people in trouble too. That's the other problem. I know. Because the whole thing's by the way, that's another classic thing as well. We actually talked about this on the recent Four Horsemen episode with Devon Nash about Twitch and streaming. Basically, there used to be a thing back in the day where me and Richard Lewis used to do all the dream hacks and he was the host. And famously, I wasn't there luckily for this. I never heard this. Richard told me later. A dream hack producer, after I'd said some joke about like the sponsor, where, the sponsor themselves has been on the phone, like, please don't ever make jokes like that again when we are paying for your event. So the producer comes to Richard Lewis in like 2015, by the way, when I'm completely unleashed. And remember, this is when you can still be edgy as fuck. And the producer goes to Richard and gets angry and goes, why don't you control him? And Richard was going, what am I supposed to do? Like, what can I do? Like, what a mad request. Like, basically, the guy was too scared to come to me. So he just went to Richard, like, control him.
I love that.
Which wouldn't even work anyway, because back in the day, I'd have thought he was joking. If Richard was like, look, can you be a bit more restrained? So I went, yeah, sure, Richard, whatever. Anyway, and here's the thing about Pasha. Pasha fucking can't even do maths, can he? Or something, be some shit like that, We all know how it went back in the day. I mean, everyone knows. The one thing I'll never be able to do again, sadly, on broadcasts, is we used to do that thing on the desk, didn't we? As we talk, they'd run down the cameraman down the line of players, and I would essentially just insult everyone's looks. Like, this person's ugly. What the fuck's he doing? Why's he wearing that? Listen, It was 2015, boys. It was a different world, you have to understand. It was through the looking glass back then. Anyway, speaking of bad memories, how about let's talk about the bad things in CS. So, Anders, what is bad right now?
I think that the competition between TOs is great. I think when it leads to events, big events especially, being cancelled because the calendar is such a battleground, I think it actually hurts the entire scene. Like, I don't want to assign morality to whether or not, one TO or another is, like, that's just competition and business. I think that's totally fine. The problem is that it's at the cost of Counter-Strike as a whole. Like, if I'm a sponsor, if I'm somebody who's looking to get involved in Counter-Strike, it has to be a weird look that big events can just kind of disappear after they've been announced, and you have to make new. Like, if I'm a sponsor and I've set aside like a budget and we've got plans to go to an event to do different things, and suddenly I get told, oh, actually that doesn't happen after all, I just think that's not going to be good. So I think it's fine for competition, even harsh competition. I just think that's, we're not at a stage in Counter-Strike where we can afford. In fact, I would argue we're at a stage in Counter-Strike where we're only now trying to rebuild the relationships with the sponsors that we all fucked over, because we just had investment money. So we're not at the time where we can just afford this, and I think it's bad.
Yeah, referring to the, I guess, PGL event that was removed because of, was it ESL Pro League, I think it was?
I think it's Pro League, yeah.
There was like a EWC one also related to it where they had to move one or cancel another one.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I don't really think there's any way to disagree with this from my point of view. I do wish that PGL or any events would simply bite the bullet, recognize you're not going to be getting some of the top 10 teams and just simply run the event concurrently, because I've kind of been pretty public about the fact I think that the best way VRS can run is when multiple events are happening concurrently, so that, because even though VRS is a good system and we have a couple success stories from it, namely NIP, PARIVISION, teams that have fought their way through it all, it's very difficult for those kinds of teams to gain points when VRS is essentially a closed circuit of the top 20 teams receiving event invite after event invite repeatedly, as it's generally pretty hard to move up or down when you're just kind of getting similar placements at all of the events as the top dogs continue to just kind of mix and match between who's first, who's third, who's second, who's fifth.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to do it, and I don't think the solution is as simple as to tell PGL, hey, just run the event, because I think they recognize their own metrics in that if they don't get X amount of top 10 teams, then we won't get Y amount of viewership, which in turn provides Z amount of revenue. So I can't really knock them too hard on that. It is just a bad thing. You just kind of wish, I don't know if I really can say I want the TOs to play nicely, but I wish that there was, I guess what the greatest wish here was just that there was a bigger draw for tier 1.5 games in the face of a tier 1 game that would run concurrently.
No, I'm with you. Like, first of all, I do think it's a mess. Because if you look at it, it's not just PGL. I mean, it's one of the reasons I imagine why Sylvie from PGL was motivated to make that tweet like last week or whatever, where he was sort of like, I guess these events won't be running next year. Because one of the things I know that people are frustrated with in the scene is I still feel like there's this divide that has never been overcome, which is the other TOs go, oh shit, Valve is technically the ones that have power, so what are the rules? I need to follow the rules. So if you're the PGLs and the Blasts of the world, well, what happens famously is ESL are famous for being like, basically, we are the scene, so you can't punish us. So I've always said ESL do that thing where it's like, better to ask forgiveness than permission. I think the others ask permission, so I've always felt like the others play by the rules, and then it means that, it's not that ESL breaks the rules, but I tell you what, they'll go right up to the edge. Like that thing they did this year, where it was like, you can still go to the other event, but if you aren't at our event in 15 hours, then you are fined, or you are not allowed. Like, that's not essentially the same as saying you're not allowed the event. You know, they just found a clever way to sort of like go like, but you're not hiding any other events under the floorboards. They were just doing some naughty shit like that, weren't they? So I do feel like the rules thing, that's the area where I feel like everyone wishes Valve would just be more clear and be like, look, what really is like the line? Are you allowed to do this stuff? Are you allowed to fuck with people? Are you allowed, by the way, like you're saying, are you allowed to run right up to the very limit when you cancel the event? Because another thing I always think about is, what about those fans that's the only event in their region and they're going to buy tickets, or they've planned that their trip or something? Like, I've always thought the biggest bomber ever, because I know this happens with UFC fights, is if you cancel the fight, what if I already booked the hotel? Like, can I always get that back? Who knows? Go on, Anders.
Well, I mean, also I think something else that maybe people don't always think about when it comes to this kind of stuff is just the sorry, hold on, I'm gonna get some drink.
That should have been an amazing commercial for that drink, but sorry,
that should have been.
Whatever you just drank.
I know.
Sorry, it's winter in Denmark.
It made us all really interested. Whoa, what's he drinking there? Some sort of tonic.
Yeah, what's he drinking? Sorry. I think that one of the problems that you guys have both touched upon it, right? Like, there's a rule set by Valve that's not entirely clear. Not to be come out as like a full, free market capitalist type person, but the whole idea of a market is to solve like certain problems. But we're not really in a free market. We're in this weird middle world where, because even a totally free market, if ESL just completely outcompeted everybody else, you could say there's a certain logic where you could say, well, then that's good. Like they had the better product, the better viewership, the better everybody. But it's almost like ESL can't quite outcompete everybody else because Valve won't let them. Okay. But so then there's still space for like, what is that? What does that mean? Like, again, I think unfortunately, the cost is at the Counter-Strike brand. I think because, PGL aren't going to go bankrupt as far as I know. They're still going to be around forever. And they produce great events and they have a huge stake in Dota and everything else, right? ESL are out there. They've got enough money to keep going anyway. So it's like the system can't fail, but it can't be as good as it can be. So we're just in this weird middle region that's not good enough, I think.
Anders been watching all those Milton Friedman videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Getting all his free market economics. Also, by the way, the PGL point is a very relevant one I want to make to people. As far as I know, I don't believe PGL runs off investment money. I believe it runs as a business, and they just actually know how to make the margins work, and that's why they host the events in those certain areas. And also, I believe they have like separate incomes that I won't go into from like Daughter, etc. So the difference is some of the other TOs are doing that thing still like the teams were, where you're playing with the VC money and you can splash it around this year and you try and put the other guy out of business. So that's another thing, Anders. Whether or not they fucked up on that event, I don't want PGL to go out of business or stop doing CS events. And remember, there was many years they were just off in Daughter and stuff. We never had them. They were just away from us. I think that's a bummer. Also, I'll tell you one last thing as well. I also am enamoured by the dream of the free market and the idea, you know, it gives individuals power and choice and, you know, the consumer can choose. One area I worry about is anytime you allow people who normally are in charge to have control or to fuck with people, sometimes they'll do it. So I think that the teams have fucked with some of these things. The teams have also played God with the circuit. I'll give you an analogy. This is why I was one of the only people who wasn't 100% in favour of the old major system, where the spot belonged to the players and it was just 3 out of the 5. Because I always said, and I'll give you a literal example of this happening, I always said, bro, one of these days, one of those players is going to wake up and go, wait a minute, it's actually just me who has the control. And I'll give you the example. Anders will remember this. Do you remember back in the day when Fnatic broke up? Because what happened is Pronax made Godsend. So the rest of them left to that, and it was just Dennis and Olaf in Fnatic. And that meant Fnatic would have had to qualify via like the equivalent of the RMR, the major qualifier, right? And what happened was, because it didn't go well in, I can't remember if it was Fnatic or Godsend, whichever one didn't go well, maybe Godsend, Crims just left back to Fnatic, and that then meant Fnatic had 3 of the 5. So literally one player, basically, look, he didn't actually, thankfully, go to his org and go, 50k or I'll leave tomorrow, which, by the way, you could have done if you were a lunatic. Like,
probably could have,
thankfully, he didn't do an Ultimate Warrior before WrestleMania move, but in a fucked up sense, like, you actually did give too much power to some of these people. And sometimes I look at those teams and I go, bro, if you're doing it because you really believe that's the better event, fair enough. That is your incentive. But sometimes, the obvious example, Team Liquid, was you were shit anyway and you needed VRS points. And then you were just going, you know what? You know all those easy VRS points people are getting, like the Bad Falcons going deep? I'm okay. I'll just chill for 3 weeks till the CSL event. And that's like, why do you get to decide the fucking turn? Now you've abused that power, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't have to get all quiet. It's not, you know, you weren't on Team Liquid here. Maybe Anders secretly, that's his next gig, isn't it? He's probably like, Team Liquid Anders, I'm back with teams. That's the new approach. Get the core stream going. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, what is Maui's
my self-serving? Yeah, my self-serving.
When I even saw this, I laughed. It's so ridiculously on point. Come on.
I haven't talked about this guy for about a year, but because there's really,
this is one of the people you hate on. This is one of your people you made a victim, bro. But he deserved it. I have to say, he did. Go on.
Oh, he definitely. At this point, definitely. Yeah. So, obviously, I think the situation that Kai came into on Fury originally was really more the Fury management who should have been at fault. The fact that he played multiple tournaments with them was just by far the worst player on a tier 1 roster for, I think, a couple months. And then now it feels like Art, who has blocked me on Twitter, got Kai, another guy.
Why is that fun? Whatever. Okay.
Both out of spite as they try to team up now. So they're obvious biggest antagonists here, because I think some people are blocked by one, but I don't know many people that are blocked by both.
You've collected the set, I see, right? Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is that I like some of the other pieces on Fluxo, okay? Watching them play, I think that there's actually potential in mostly Descenti and Lucauzi. Lucauzi didn't end the major all that strongly, but I read a lot of interviews. I mean, obviously, I'm working the major, so I have to think about all these different aspects of the teams. And Lucauzi, they brought up in interviews, is like the secondary voice guy. He's been really, and the percentage that they have improved versus top 50 teams before he was on the team, they were at something around just a terrible like 38% map win rate versus top 50 teams. Once they added Lucauzi, they became a 47% win rate versus top 50 teams. So that's a pretty significant jump, obviously. Yeah. Whereas Kai still does very poorly. And even beyond just the numbers, when you watch Kai play, other than the very last map on Mirage that he played against FaZe, this guy was ass. This guy was so bad, okay? He sells in so many of the positions where he needs to stay alive. He doesn't get his one kill. the nuke defense that they had versus who did they play? Where he was just legitimately one of the weakest A-site defenders I had ever seen versus NIP, where Snappy really realized in that game, if we just keep going A, Kai won't get anything done. He's like fiddling with nades. It's like he's never seen an exec before. He just couldn't get a single kill when they ran to his bomb site. Art had to go over to make it a 3-man hold on the A bomb site just to defend Kai. And it's just not worth it. Like, the potential just doesn't seem like it's there. Even in like a raw aim duel circumstance, he still doesn't win a lot of those kinds of fights versus people in stage 1. And it's like, reminder, stage 1 is really, really, like, we build up tier 2, but stage 1 is very weak compared to what actually like the real tier 1 is in personnel, and there's a few weak links, and he's still just a clear weak link to me. I think that I could point to other things regarding Fluxo, but yeah, my piece has been said that Kai, in a team that I shouldn't have any real care for, they should just cut Kai.
Listen, I just want to start.
What, even from a bad team? Holy shit, go on. Keep going, Andy. Go on.
I love the fact that you are sort of a mini Duncan that's like, it's really, you know, players are blocking you, you're still working events, but the TOs think you might be a bit edgy. Like, I've seen this movie before. Listen, if you ever get invited to go on a podcast with Chan Man, just don't do it.
Okay.
Like, I'm from the future. Like, just don't do it. But I think it's a solid point, unfortunately. I think, there are so many metrics by which you can judge your player. Like you talked about Kai, I've seen this too when NXU comes in and you think, okay, at least just like do one thing well, and then whatever else, like hopefully the teammates will get there, whatever else is going on. But there's another thing that I started to notice a lot for some players, and Kai is one of them, unfortunately. It's just this basic concept of like time to kill. Like I see Kai in fights where if the fight ends a second earlier, which is a lot in Counter-Strike, right? Then he can actually be ready for another fight, but it always takes a little bit longer, and it leaves him in a weird position where now he's way out in an angle, he's way too exposed, he's always going to get traded, and it is frustrating. It's super frustrating because I even agree with the rest of it. Like the rest of Fluxo seem like they could really be going somewhere, so it is harsh to find one player, but it's hard to disagree. I think even if you look at the stats, like they don't always lie, you know. So this time it's looking pretty good.
By the way, I sort of do know what Maui means, though. And listen, it just sounds harsh, because now it sounds like wherever this guy pops his head up, Maui's got the mallet ready to whack them all. Like, bang, got him. It's like, bro, he's in fucking basically the cast-off team of all the people kicked out for not being good enough for the rest of the teams. He's in the ultimate, like, misfit squad, and you're like, fire him from that team too. He's not good enough for that either. But I can't lie, he is pretty bad. I can't, especially because people were doing that thing. By the way, you could put skulls in the same basket. These were people who were supposed to be like people with potential who were going to grow, and they've sort of not. They've withered on the vine, as we say, and it's been fucking bad. And I agree, the rest of his team, look, they're not a good team, but the players aren't actually as bad as I thought, bro. Like, first of all, Art hasn't done the full Yakinda, but he has the odd game where you're like, hey, there's still something going on there. He's still got some of that like intuitive feel. Yeah. The decenty guy is just appropriately named. He's just decent. That's fine. Lakowski, mate, if I was in an MIB, I'd be like, why couldn't you just play like this in our team? This is why we recruited you. But he never did it, unfortunately. And then if people remember, actually the forgotten name is Zevi, bro. When you go back a few years, he was actually good as an AWPer on Pain back in the day. That was like a legit player. It's just that he wasn't one of the ones that got to the big teams. He never got to a Furia, and sadly, that's a sign in the Brazilian scene. They didn't rate him as much. Like, remember, they needed an AWPer in Furia. They never even considered this guy, as far as I know. So they were even thinking of going back to Safe or something, apparently. So I do think overall, by the way, also another thing to say is, well, here's what they don't realise, Maui. I had to learn this myself, where now I just ignore people and don't read the comments and don't block people. Unfortunately, you do in a mad way. Even though it's antisocial as fuck, you do give people like a little thrill when they say you blocked them, because then it means they know that you read something that made you upset and you blocked them. So what these dumbass pros don't realise is, listen, they're not going to listen to this, and even if they did, they wouldn't listen to it and actually take the advice. By actually blocking Maui, you just showed he hurt your feelings and you listened to his point, and his point like actually went through your brain and you attempted to process it. Like, you would actually, for real, there's how you would kill Maui, is if you actually just didn't block him and then you just pretended you didn't even know him. In fact, if you really wanted to own him, what you'd do is just, here's what you would actually do. And you guys don't even know this would own him. It's just you wouldn't have balls to do what I'm about to say. What you would do is, next time you're both at an event, when you go up to the casters when he's all with a bunch of them, and see like Spawn just like, hey Chad or whatever, and then go to him and go, oh, who are you again? And you're like, oh, I'm Maui. And you're like, oh, I think I saw you on a desk one time. You're not bad actually. Yeah, I hope you do well, man. And pretend they don't know you, mate. That would actually own you. The problem is when they all block you like that. It's like back in the day, Cold Zero and Taco were notorious for this, mate. As soon as you do it, everyone knows they got to you. They just do. That's sadly that is the reality of the Zoomer meta. I've realised. It just is.
And it's just clear. I mean, there's varying levels of confidence and self-assuredness for the top level pros, but I think the best response ever is I had a pretty negative tweet about Rops one time, and he just likes it. He just likes it.
Oh, in a way, that's gangster, I have to say. I know what you mean. Yeah. That's why, by the way, I've always said this. That's actually how I always said Fallen is actually way better than I am at the social game. Because you know what Fallen actually did most of the times I flamed him? He wouldn't go like, you're wrong or you're an idiot or get him fans. He would just be like I'll give you an example. Back when SK was actually beating FaZe Clan at the end of like 2017, I think it was 2017, back when they had that super team. At the time, I had to put FaZe number one in my rankings because they'd just been in more events than placed top 4 more times. That's how rankings work, right? But because SK was beating them and everyone said SK is the best team in the world, as in they'd win an event tomorrow, I put FaZe number one. And instead of just going like, well, this is stupid or you're just biased against us, Fallen just said something like, well, I guess Thorin knows better than the rest of us. Yeah, that's actually hilarious. You've actually sort of owned me there. You're making it seem like you like that I've fucking put the opinion you clearly don't agree with. You've actually sort of got me on that one.
Well, I do also want to add, just, as I started with a warning to Maui, but I will say this, there's also a redemption arc potentially. Like, I've seen Duncan, viciously fight with players like at events on Twitter, but I've seen him just as many times, have a, beer at the after parties. Like, there's always redemption to be had later on. And I genuinely think that's an important thing too. Like, I agree for the players who will come up and say, I mean, some of them, they do it after a couple of beers or whatever, but I think it's still good to be able to say, hey, you critique me about this, I disagree. I think that could be fun,
Oh, by the way, there's another thing to say as well, is in a weird way, because let's be real, we're almost never actually saying stuff about their families or like who they are as people. We just criticise them in the bloody game, or we're saying stuff like a sports ball talking head. Like, I think another player could be in that spot and the team could be better. So a lot of the emotion and energy is also generated from, what fans will say and fans picking up on it and feeling like you're the ringleader of the negative fans that they don't like. And I will say, Anders, that dynamic is real. If you can ever actually meet them and sort of get past that, and listen, we're not fucking bitches, so we're not going to go, I'm sorry I said that opinion about the game. Like,
of course not.
No, but if we can ever get to the point where it's like, on a personal level, we just like shake hands or have a drink, in a weird way, it flips the dynamic. It actually makes it so you almost have like a weird little bonding moment where you just like, actually, you know what, fair enough. You're cool, I'm cool, I'll nod. I'll actually give you some examples. Put it this way, I did that show called Strapbook with Legia for like a couple of years. Yeah. If people don't know, Legia fucking hated my guts because I said he was shit on big about 1 million times. I used to just say, like, you can't have God B and Legia. Spoiler, I'll just keep God B. Like, I used to do that like 1 million times. Like, I even used to tell him joking on Strapbook, like, I remember you used to think you could op. Shit like that, like he didn't appreciate that. I can tell you there was actually a cologne where he was like, I want to talk to you outside. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, you know what, I've had enough drinks, fuck it. I'm at that level of enough alcohol where you don't feel the punches. Let's just fucking go. And he just wanted to argue about CS and ask like my opinion. But I can tell low-key he also didn't want to fight me. Like, if I'd ever like, fucking flinched on him or something, he'd probably have just gone mad even if I was taking my wallet out of my pocket or something. So, no, but then later the joke is, then there's another thing. Sometimes they also just see your persona, bro. And when you paste that and they see the person behind, it's why the joke actually is, I'm not even trolling. I'd never say we're friends, but every time Fallen ever sees me at an after party, he always asks me to have a drink and sit at their table and talk to the others. And and by the way, he just asks things about like, what's your personal life? What do you think of the event? He won't bring up his team or like some stupid shit of like, my Open's actually better than you think. They ever do that? And I have to say, I know what you mean, Anders. I have mad respect for players who sort of get it. And the Rops one's a banger too. The idea is just like, I like that shit, whatever, you fucking idiot. Have a like.
Gangster as fuck.
Yeah, that's actually baller.
Exactly.
Especially in the modern day when no one sees the likes. That's hilarious. Just like, there you go. All right, dickhead, I like it. Now what?
It's just only for me to know that he's glad and
exactly.
He accepts
it's
that.
Like, listen, Maui, I see you, Maui. I'm the analyst now. Exactly. Oh, and there's even one that actually made me feel really bad. Right, I've told the story before about how Henry wrecked me that time with that Danish AWP and Mertz for North, where I just thought he wasn't good enough and he was too like flicky with the AWP, and he actually wasn't that good, to be fair. He had like a bit of a hard time in North, but he was like an academy prospect that was talented. He did that thing where at one of these events where they bombed, He just came up to me, like, at the end of the after party almost, when we both had a few drinks, and was like, hey, let's have a shot together or something. And he, like, bought a whole bunch of shots he was giving out. And he was like, and if you have, like, a girl that you've met here, you could give her a shot. And I was like, this guy's actually pretty cool, like, fair enough. He could see past the sort of show that is going, the pantomime, as it were. Like, some of it is for sure, for fuck's sake. It is entertainment, guys. We don't actually hate each other. Except for the ones who have blocked me, like Maui said on Twitter. Then that's real hatred. That is a feud to the death. They have to understand that, boys. That goes to the death. Like that, I mean, the joke is they don't even have to block me, Maui. The one time Yekindar lost that EPL final and just was mildly in his feelings and dared to tweet at me saying I begged him for an interview. It's like, right, it's on now for like 4 years, motherfucker. And I have to say, if he could go back, I think he just wouldn't do that tweet. Because it's like, why do you don't need me on your ass, especially when you then like tank your own career for 2 years. Like, bro, that could have been a beautiful narrative, but your problem is you got the number one hater with a fucking magnifying glass on it. Like, right, let's see, motherfucker, let's see what's going on now. Like,
it's also because, Duncan, because you don't get hired for the events either.
I know.
You don't have the other side of the valve now. Like, you don't get to meet the players and shake hands with them. You're just on the,
Exactly. That's the main reason I think they should hire me for the events again, just so I can make friends with everyone.
Yeah, it's best for everybody, best for the ecosystem.
Exactly. It's just good for the players. If you care, basically, Anders is saying, if you, the TO, care about men's mental health in November of all months, you must hire Thorin to the events. And also hire Anders Bloom, because Anders Bloom puts Thorin in a good mood and then he makes friends with the players again. So, and if you want to hire him out, it depends what your relationship is. I don't know. I can't. I wouldn't want to.
I'll be fine. I'll do just fine.
Anyway, I want to talk about something bad. And I noticed none of you did it. Maybe you know me too well, Maui. But you know what my bad point is? Well, recently, I've been enjoying what Latvia exports in esports. Yakindar's revived his game. Heku's a wonderful talent who has all these things. Of course, with the good, there must come the bad. Broky, he should be on Team Liquid because he is Liquid pig shit. What the fuck is going on? Mate, that is really sad. I'll actually start with the mildly respectful version. I think it's really sad because do you know what? When Broky did come along, I get why people do that stupid Jacob comparison. They go, when he came along, he wasn't supposed to be a top player and, he was kind of a bit out of sorts in phase, but he grew into the role and he became good. I'll say this, he became more than good. Broky became way better than I ever expected in CSGO. Remember, this motherfucker was like the MVP of like fucking, was it Kanavice? I think it was. I think it was I Am Kanavice. Like, this guy was actually a top player in the world. And crucially, I'll tell you what I've learned that's really sad. Because of my own biases, I do think the FaZe style of play is Carrigan. I also think part of the magic was Rops winning all those insane clutches. But I'll tell you what, the actual engine of that team was Broky. Because it was Broky doing all those crazy mid-rounds and when, like, overpass, he'd go from, like, the fucking connector to the monster to the pillar. Like, oh, I was fucking sick. Like, by the way, I would always say this. You don't even have to think he was that good in AWP, but who didn't like watching Broky play, bro? That's one of the reasons FaZe was so dope. And I even think, I will always say this, I even think he's an example of where we're all really unfair in esports. Because in the last season of 2024, people forget this because Rops was sick at that Shanghai Major. Rops was fucking off his game that last season. He had months where he just had average results. He did the shit he did now where he doesn't go for the clutch, like fucks it up. And actually, Broky was the one carrying them, bro. Him and Frozen were like the dudes back then, a bit like Twist and Frozen are now. But unfortunately, because we got through that period and then Rops left, and then Broky had all these problems and the team was worse with Elige, now unfortunately he does look like the worst. Like the joke is the Jacob guy's getting by right now because we're all just watching Broky. And by the way, when I say watching him, bro, he's having games where he has like 5 kills, and he has the AWP as well. And also, I pointed this out in the past, his stats for openers with the AWP will melt your fucking brain. It is always in the single digits, bro. That's not even who I see Broky as. So I don't know what's happened, because I think actually he was part of the FaZe magic, and that's one of the reasons why I've gone from eternal FaZe believer I was in Simple to I low-key hate FaZe now. I actually sort of want mum and dad to fucking get a divorce so I can just go fucking live somewhere. They can stop arguing. We can go live somewhere cool and meet my new mum. I don't even know where this analogy's going. Whatever. Dexter, you're my new mum. Coming in, son. Whatever. It is what it is. And also, that's the other bummer as well. I'll just throw this in there. As well as Broky being bad, I just find it really fucking awkward because since he was one of the 3 Musketeers and he was one of the people who was essential to their success, they're doing that thing in FaZe where they can't acknowledge it. And in fact, they're trying to do the us against the world of he'll prove you wrong and we're going to stick with him. And that just bums me out too, because it's I understand being loyal to people like that, but I feel like it's a bad situation for everyone. And I think, unfortunately, even if I wasn't being rude, his level of play has just been really low for me. It's something, I don't know what's happened to him, but something's gone wrong. Come on, Anders.
I for sure was one of the people in the space before he took a break or was put on a break or whatever happened there. I was critical of broky because I feel like actually, the comparison with Yekindar is even interesting. I think both players had this thing going on where the team could be in an advantage. Like it could be even a 5 versus 3 advantage in their favor. And one of these players will go and look for another kill. They'll go find something and then they'll die. And suddenly the round is open again. And in broky's case, very often it was an advantage manufactured by himself. So it'd be like, you get 2 opening kills with the AWP, you go for a 3rd kill, now you die, and now the bomb's been planted, and the whole round is washed away. So I was very critical of that, but I think it's a great example of sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for here, because when he came back from the break, he stopped doing a lot of that stuff. And initially, I watched some of the really early games on FaZe when he was back, and I said, man, this is great. Like, he's playing very smart Counter-Strike, though. You're seeing, like, he's not going for that extra fight. He's more intelligent about how he's proving these things. And it's good. I thought, that's sick. That's what I want. Because in my mind, I thought I could have both. I could have the wild and out of control, crazy cowboy Counter-Strike that broky was, and I could have the other side. And apparently that's not the case, right? Like, when you take one thing away from him, now you've got a different kind of player. And I think that's, unfortunately, it's massively damaging to the whole dynamic of the team. So I even feel almost guilty because I feel like I'm one of the people who's like, yeah, I want to see broky play, smarter. But then unfortunately, the smarter Counter-Strike just doesn't have anywhere near the insane impact of watching broky, do a 1v3 clutch and 2 of them are no scopes or some insane shit like that.
He's been really disappointing. I mean, it sucks that the contrast is unfortunately just simple. Blew us away with how good he was.
Yeah, that hurts too.
And even, especially given that at the beginning of Simple with BC Game, I'm not counting what happened since Electronic joined, then he was just blowing away Tier 2. I don't think broky would have blown away Tier 2. Like, he was, for a 2-3 month stretch, Simple was just the best player in that whole space. And broky right now, he's an X Factor that usually leans negative. That's not what you want from an X Factor. You want an X Factor that has a high floor, and then you just sometimes punch up a little bit more. But the X Factor is just high variance play where it just feels like in the mid-late round situation where he would usually thrive, now he just misses the first shot, and then he dies, and then everything falls out of whack, or he goes for a really just poorly calculated repeak. And I just feel like it's crazy because you think that the explosive style of play is something that you just need to work on, you just need to bring it back, you can grind to it, but for whatever reason, he just has not been able to make that work for him, other than like against Fluxo and Red Canids. And I feel like I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel when I have to invoke those 2 teams' names for high points in the last 6 months of broky. It's just that every single tournament has just been so red in terms of rating, and there's just so many different circumstances where you watch other Tier 1 oppers play a situation, and maybe they aren't as exciting, but I at least can follow the logical train of thought of why they made their next decision. And if they get the one shot off to get the one kill, it's great, but it looked like they were being a wuss the whole time. But it's just that broky would rather seemingly die on his terms in a stupid way than get one kill from a way that is more by the book. And I just want the guy that's a little bit more by the book now, unless you're hitting every shot. If you're hitting every shot, I can forgive you for every single transgression you make against proper opping. It doesn't even matter. You can break the rules. That's what Simple made a whole career out of, breaking the rules. But it's predicated on hitting shots that are 9 out of 10 difficulty on a regular basis, and he simply doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just an example that comes to mind for me in this context, right? Like, broky is if you put, CT side nuke on the ramp, if you put broky there and he gets the first kill, the older version of broky would have said, oh, I just got the first kill, I'll push. I'll actually move in towards lobby and like, I'll fight them even further, which, because it's such an insane move, somehow works because the T's on the other side. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, he already got the cage. He's supposed to be falling back. That is the by the book sort of play that I feel like most AWPers say. I'm happy to just get the kill. Like, I can go back to B. I could fall back towards heaven. It's fine. But this current version of broky instead is like missing the shot, then falling back, giving up the space. Then it is I don't know what happened. I mean, I guess notoriously as well, AWPing is a high confidence kind of game, and we've seen this from other players. Once they stub their toe even once, it's now they are way more nervous. Like something disappears really from we can probably have countless examples of this happening, and some people truly never recover.
Yeah. No, by the way, probably the greatest example of what you're talking about there was people forget this. At the end of CSGO, people forget that Guardian went back to Na'Vi and just sucked. It just wasn't any good. He had the AWP. And by the way, here's what's mad. Here's why I know what you're saying is right, Anders. I used to watch him stream at the time, and on the stream he hit every shot. And I'd be like, what the fuck? Because by the way, when you have the talent of people like Guardian, Kenny, you don't lose that. Something happens to you mentally, or you can't perform in the game or something. No, the joke is, as Maui says, that's even the team I'm ready to transfer him to, Red Canids. Because one, he's only good against South American teams, and also his score's always in the red. And I looked up what a Canid is. It's a type of dog, and he's fucking dogging it right now. Whatever. Listen, it wasn't my best work, but it was decent. It was decent. Okay, so that's the only sense he's got that dog in him.
True, that's true. It's crazy that as a stage 1 AWPer, he was the worst European AWPer.
It's nuts, isn't it? And he's down with like IGLs and shit, bro. If you look at his stats, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Remember, people want Carrigan fired for those stats.
Than him were like, yeah, exactly.
And he doesn't have the AWP.
I think Zevi and just Asian AWPers were the only ones worse than him in that stage. Just. It's inexcusably bad.
Also, I like the way Anders just dropped that in there. Oh, was it you, Maui? Like, it's true, Maui. The worst thing is, when you're a legendary player, I don't ever want to really believe in the concept of a team killer. But bro, electronic.
Oh God.
Simple, couldn't have a bad map almost. He had a bad map one out of every 20. You joined and he's just like, no, now half the time I'm shit. Like, what? This guy, as we say in England, this guy could fuck up beans on toast. Like, it's mad. I don't know what it is. He just can't. He just hasn't got it, mate. He's good playing anti-CS at this point in time. He must have one of those things like a Pokemon or a fucking Magic the Gathering card where just being in his vicinity affects you in some aura effect, as the kids would say. Fucking hell,
it's
electronic.
Crazy.
Come on,
it's legitimately
and
crazy.
Tyra Banks, we pulled for you. We wanted you to be fucking good. We don't even hate on you.
It's actually I mean, Simple's rating once electronic join is a 1.01.
And they just lose now, bro, as Anders said. Before that, what used to happen was BC game, I used to bet on them all the time, mate. They used to win almost every game until it was like the final of a tournament. Then they might lose to a good team, like a Bet Boom or something. Now, as he says, we're just discovering new Russian players because they're just beating fucking Czech Notes Simple in fucking BO3 and on LAN. I mean, I even made this point in the last episode. There was a map he played against JW, for fuck's sake, and they were doing well.
There might be an ultimate irony because when Simple and Electronic were on a team the first time around, Simple was the asshole who was yelling at everyone else to play better. And I feel like, now Simple's in his it's later in life, chilled out kind of vibe mode, and now Electronic is showing up, basically doing to Simple what he was doing to him earher. There's it's gone full
circle. There was that thing where right before she did the famous sandwich tweet, that Sevenlicious girl, that one female player, she was at that LAN that Simple was at last, and I just wanted to go, Simple, bruh, what's going on? She's had to become an actual sandwich maker in real life, mate. You're now in the beginning of sports where people are a mechanic and then they go and play in the fucking team on Sunday. I thought you were trying to get to the top of the game.
Do you know that sandwich tweet got more interactions than this year's 2 announcement tweet? It's gone mega viral. It's sick.
No, here's the thing, mate. I thought of so many zingers I could do, but sadly, because I knew it had gone viral, this is where the old me would have just fucking sent it, bro. But I knew it could backfire. I was going to do something mean, because she once flamed me about that Imperial Valkyries thing. I was going to do something quote tweet it and go, wow, I'm glad you actually found your way onto a mixed roster at something you can be world class at, or something some naughty joke like that, But then I thought, listen, maybe think better about that. You never know how people will interpret these things. I will say, though, I've got one minor thing to say about that topic, which is, listen, I even did a show with her on Feed the Trolls. Vilga's all right, actually. In general, if you talk to her, she gets jokes, she does, but she had one of the weirdest angles I've ever seen on that topic, which is she herself made the in-joke, like, finally you became like a sandwich maker or something. And then she took her own tweet and quote tweeted it and went, the amount of likes on this is really disturbing and says something about our society. It's like, it's your tweet! You made the tweet! Well, we're not... Wait a minute. When you make a tweet, we're not allowed to use the like function, or we're the misogynist. Why, in that analogy, why are you putting the words in our mouth then? What are you doing?
She got you, Duncan.
She
actually
did.
get
know.
you.
She got me on that
She
one.
outplayed you.
Damn
That's
it.
sick.
Anyway, speaking of people who only perform in the Americas, if I was in North America, then I think I would use... Wait there, 1 second. Where is it? I would use Mint Mobile, which is a mobile phone option where quality of the wireless service is excellent, and they have a whole bunch of... They've got an amazing deal right now. It's the best deal of the year, which is if you go to shop the Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/Snake Banter, all one words. That's mintmobile.com/Snake Banter, all one words. They have a limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra, initial plan term only, over 35 gigabytes, may slow when network is busy, capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Basically, they have like 3, 6, 12-month plans, unlimited, where you have unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network, and it's only $15 a month, which is actually like a fucking banging deal, I've got to say. One of the things I used to be really scared of with phones back in the day was the idea you'd go over the plan and then it'd be fucking insane extra costs, or they only make it reasonable until you reach your numbers and then they wreck you and you need to do a call that weekend. You don't have any of that problems. You can also bring your current phone number over. There's no contracts, no nonsense. So anyway, if you are in America, why don't you check out Mint Mobile? Well, they've got this limited time offer. Okay, we now go to what in some ways is my favourite part of the show, and it is the ugly, because as we pointed out, it's just actually a loophole where you just talk about whatever the fuck you want at the end, and you just go, isn't that sort of ugly? In a way, aren't all topics ugly? There you go, Anders, what are you going to come with here? Come on. I even know, sadly, because people send me their points, I even know, but I'm setting it up like I don't. Get ready for this, man.
Well,
this is so self-indulgent. What is ugly right now, Anders? Come on.
You know what? In this case, you don't, Duncan, because I changed my mind halfway through.
Okay.
I don't know if you're allowed to do this.
Yeah, you can. Go for it.
Okay, so I recognize halfway through. I can make a better point than this.
Okay.
And this, so it was.
By the way, in that case, I'll just say this: his other point literally said "my fucking pickums." Like, and I was like, "Bro, like, you have to at least make points on the show." But okay, what are you changing it to now, Anders? That's so self-indulgent; it's ridiculous.
It was. Okay, so this is a bit dangerous to me because I actually could be getting. But it's a bit of a layup to you, maybe Duncan, and maybe you as well, Maui, because you guys know more about sports than I do. But my ugly point is that we have no salary caps in Counter-Strike, and I think it's dangerous as hell to the integrity of the ecosystem. I actually went on a bit of a tour myself and kind of looked at how does it work in football, in basketball, in American football. All these different sports have some version of either salary caps or what you would call financial fair play to basically stop the teams from savaging each other to the point where, you know, there's no sport anymore because everyone is, you know, busy infighting. And I think that it's obvious that has to happen. I do think it's important with this point that none of this is about pocket watching the players and saying these people are making too much money. It's completely irrelevant. If the players each make, you know, 10 million a month, that's totally fine as long as the ecosystem can have it make sense. And unfortunately, a lot of the top teams, they are really, really bad at protecting themselves, right? They would rather set, you know, money to or fire to more money to try and outshine the other teams, and it's really bad in the long term. And I mean, we're being forced into a different era now anyway because the money piles are, you know, they're not there anymore. But I think we have to have that conversation at one point. And as far as I can tell, there doesn't exist a sport where there's some variation of it.
There's a luxury tax instead for Major League Baseball, and I feel like a lot of people complain about that because the Dodgers and it used to be the Yankees would just pay the luxury tax. What it was is that there was just a number, and if you go over it, all of the money that you're spending. I don't know the rule perfectly, but I'm pretty sure it was anything you went over that price, you're now all the money's just spreading to either teams in your division or teams that are in your.
I think the idea is it goes to the other teams because that's like a way to make it fair or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it goes to your competitors. So in CS, it's an interesting point. I mean, I think there's something. I don't know if Thorin could get into the stuff with the Premier League and just in world football because I'm not really as familiar with that. But it's made, in terms of what it's done to baseball, has been pretty much like the Dodgers just feel like they're kind of set to win every single time. Sports are a little bit, there's obviously variables there. People can get injured. People don't always perform up to expectation. But because baseball is also such a sport where it's almost like a series of 1v1s over and over again as people are going up to bat and then go against a pitcher, you kind of, through the aggregate, are able to get, if you get the percentages roughly that you should be getting from the players that you pay a lot of money, you can buy victories in a way that's a little bit, it's actually a little bit more straightforward than a game like basketball or Counter-Strike, where there's, the synergy between individuals is much more at play in a live environment than baseball, which is more, it's almost like a turn-based sport in my opinion. And yeah, I think that aspect is like, you can't really buy chemistry. I think Falcons have learned that the hard way, that even though they are clearly spending the most of anyone, including their coach, they didn't necessarily, it doesn't bake in having perfectly aligned philosophies for playing the game that are synchronized between all of the players simultaneously so they can collapse in high pressure moments. And the future of that is a little bit of a scary prospect. I'm not sure what I would do about it necessarily, because we don't really have league systems or anything like that. It's kind of an interesting discussion because it's it seems like it could trend towards dangerous territory. And I think, actually, simply put, the three teams that are performing extremely well right now in Falcons, Vitality, and Furia do pay quite a bit of money. Maybe there's an exception there. Like, I don't think Molidoy is on the books with like some insane salary. Like, he was a gamble. They would probably got him on a discount, or, well, discount to what he would be evaluated at today. But there's still teams that are punching well above their weight for their salaries. So I don't think it's a worrying sign. It's a worry just yet. And also, Falcons haven't won anything just yet. If they win the major, conversation maybe reopens, discussion recommences. But for the Mongols, the Mongols look like the better team this season for a lot of it until they remove Senzu. And they are probably, just by my speculation, probably them and Aurora are the least paid teams of the guys that are currently in the top 9 in terms of HLTV ranking, and they were winning tournaments more so than the Falcons. So I'm not super concerned right now, but I get the worry.
Even though I know Anders genuinely just meant this as like a philosophical and sort of an abstract point about this, I'm just going to say, if anyone is in the industry, if any TOs out there are listening, Anders Bloom, the caster Anders Bloom, thinks we should have like a limit on how much people can earn so that, companies don't get like bankrupted by,
Not included me.
No, of course. That's the joke. That's the joke
fuck?
of it all. Exactly. Obviously, I wouldn't include casters in this. Listen, you need to pay those guys the best in the world. Yeah. They've got money. They've got bills to pay. There's kids need toys. It's Christmas coming up. What do you, like, have a heart, guys. Have a heart. But no, that I just think that's funny. If anyone from ESL's listening, that one's for you. That one's for you, boys. So no, what I'll say is this. I know, if you want to ask a bit about the Premier League, I'm not a super expert on that one in terms of the stuff, but I do know the gist of it. Essentially, the gist of it goes like this. Because the Premier League doesn't have a salary cap, and as a result, especially back in the day, what is called the Big Six clubs, they spend so much, unless they're really bad, they will always basically be in the top 10, if not the top 6 teams. And the ones that spend the most are usually top 3. And it is a sport, a bit like Mauisnake with baseball, where you sort of can buy. The reason why, it's like what I say about Falcons. By the way, did I not nail that years ago on this show? Even at their worst, I told people, eventually, the Falcons will have one of the best teams in the world. They will probably have a team that can win majors, because the approach of constantly buying the best players and paying them mega bucks and being really attractive means eventually you'll just cycle through players till you do have those players that can win. It's the same thing that happens with the teams in football, the Real Madrids, the Manchester Cities. They just have too many good players. And then the joke becomes they can have like their 4th best player be what would be the star player of a team that would have to play against them. And so you can also, by the way, even do mad shit in in CS. Like, you can, like, essentially another thing Falcons could always have done is you just keep buying their star player. Well, how are they supposed to beat you in the long run? Like, eventually you just strip their star player away, which is kind of like before salaries, how you used to do it when you were just the best team. You would just take the underdog team that was beating you, take their best player, then they can't beat you. What are you going to say, Anders?
I think there's another way to think about it, right? I think if Falcons had bought, 5 players and immediately won the next major, I think this point that I'm trying to make would be way more obvious.
Yeah.
But whether they're winning or not, it's still a potential danger, and the Falcons are not at all like this. This started, by the way, with organizations like Cloud9 and Envy, with some of those NA organizations that came in. In fact, you could even make the argument that if you pay a team a lot of money and they're doing badly, that's actually more incentive for other teams who are doing better to go to their organization and say, hey, these guys are getting paid more than we are. That's unfair. Like, we're doing way better. I want to get paid more. And again, I'm not blaming the players at all for doing this. I would 1,000,000% do this if I was in a team. So nobody's asking the players to say, well, you guys should be more financially responsible. And if you're asking for too much money and that's wrecking the game, that's a completely silly point. Yeah. But the problem is that we have entities, it's been proven over a long time, right? People are willing to spend more than they can afford to try and outcompete other people. And that's self-defeating over, like, for the game as a whole. It's self-defeating over the long course of it.
By the way, 2 things. One, that literally to this day is one of the biggest problems I can tell you with pro players and orgs. Pro players still think they get paid based on how good they are. So if they hear someone in another team that they consider worse than them gets 25k, then they have to be on 30. But it's like in our org, we don't have the money for that. Like, and also, as Anders says, maybe the other org doesn't have the money. Maybe they have like a year's runway left, and if they don't win like the fucking major or get 2 more sponsors, they're bust. And so, but the problem is it's really hard to explain that to the player because he just sees the game. And I can tell you, to go back into the Premier League angle, this is what the financial fair play rules try to do. Look, I imagine the clubs would tell you they're unfair and stuff, but the idea is good. Basically, the premise goes like this. Because there isn't a salary cap, instead what they do is there's 2 key factors. One is there's a requirement that over a 3-year span, you have to break even. So that means, I'll give you an example. Pimp's favourite club, Chelsea, sometimes spends the most, but they also sell fuck tons of the star players that didn't work out for quite a lot of money. So in the end, their net spend might not actually be that bad, the plus minus once you add it all up. And also, there's an aspect which says that you can't spend beyond your revenue. You can't just have, as we're saying, 20 million coming in and then you spend 100 million. So what happens, for example, with someone like Chelsea is they also are a very popular team. So they have all the packed ground and they sell all the shit and everyone buys the jerseys. Now, if you want to know the number 1 team in English football for the last 10 years, Manchester City, the reason they're in trouble with these rules is because they're Saudi owned. Funny, fitting conversation with the Falcons. That's what people claim they've broken the rules on. People claim they've done cheeky stuff, like have the owners do a semi-fake sponsorship so that the revenue goes up and then you can just use that money to buy the players. And then also, as a result, if you saw how many players they've bought, it's I don't even know if it's possible they could have broken even on this, but they just had too many players. Like I said, mate, they had someone on the bench who was played for England and who now was the star player of another team. He was just on their bench. He didn't even get to start, but he would be a starter for any other team. So that, I know what the issue is. And if you want to relate it to CS, Anders has sort of touched on it. The real problem is, especially back in the day, it was the VC angle. Because the problem was, if you are an org, the difference of Falcons is the Saudis comes from oil money, so they can run this for a while. But a lot of esports orgs were always 1 or 2 years from being bust. Remember that story with fucking Heroic? Where the story a few years ago was Heroic, if they don't get millions, they just shut the whole team down in 6 months. And apparently they got in the investment, it was fine. But in that scenario, you're essentially allowing people, when we both compete for the same player, you're saying that because the player doesn't understand that, if I say to him, 30k, and then you say 50k, it doesn't matter if he looked at our books, he'd go, wait a minute, this will only last 6 months if I join your team. Not only does that mean now it's 50k is the market value, but even worse, I'm now incentivized to go, oh, fuck it, 40k then. And that now might put me past my budget. And I know what you mean, Anders. What you mean is this. We don't mean any individual player. The best player should get paid the most. We just mean we don't want teams to constantly play chicken with each other and basically gamble the industry, because it's the whole industry will lose if we all do this.
And listen, I think you could even make a pro-player argument for why this makes sense. You almost just made it, right? Which is that actually for the players as well. Like, would you really want to get paid 50K a month? But like you said, for 7 months, and then your
Exactly.
organization blows up and everyone is fired. And
I'll even give you a cheeky one, Anders. I won't mention names. You could guess some of them. Some of them are Russian. I even think we're doing a really suspicious thing in CS, which is you sign someone to a massive contract for loads of money, but you know all the contracts say you get paid half as much if you get benched. There's some people very suspiciously get benched for a long time, bro, who could play in the team. Like, that sounds to me like basically the gamble is, I'll say I'm going to pay you the mad amount, but if it doesn't work out after 3 months, I'll put you in prison, mate, basically. And then you just don't get to play it, but that way I don't pay the floor. You can even argue it hurts the players sometimes, bro.
Yeah, I think so. So it's obviously an immensely complex topic.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it'd be interesting to do like a full breakdown. I did it a little bit myself at one point, but it's just there are different models in each sport, and I don't know. Maybe Counter-Strike probably would need its own model. Like, I don't think we could just rip one off from the other from the other places, but it needs something.
And they'll give you 2 teams I think have actually been unfairly punished in this regard, which is the 2 teams, because they're both massive squads, is Astralis and Team Liquid. Because since they've both had squads that were super teams and good rosters not work, the expectation from fans, cause of the Falcons of the world, is just buy another super team. You know, everyone makes that joke to Falcons, just one more superstar. You guys just want one more super team. Like, every time Team Liquid fails, you want them to sign Dexter Elise. Like, what are you doing? Where would they get the money to do that 2 times a year? They only did it once. And remember, those contracts, as I just said, when you fire those players, that gets awkward. Now, does anyone want to buy them? By the way, that's even the thing about the financial fair play in Premier League that doesn't work, unfortunately. If you buy a really good player for loads of money, but then he's not very good, well, obviously, if you need to make the money back, it's really hard to sell him for that much money. So you also get problems like that too. So that's why they implied it. They made it so you'd be more responsible when you sign people. You wouldn't just sign them willy-nilly, basically, and like Falcons can, and then just say, sorry, you're on the bench, lol. And it's like, wait a minute, you were supposed to be a top player. So I think it's a good point, by the way.
But also, fuck my pick'ems.
Listen, I made it so. That's how I am, and I've always been this way. If I'm getting wrecked at an event, that's a fucking travesty. This is injustice. But if I'm doing all right and Richard's getting wrecked, you're getting wrecked. So I'm fine with it. I think Pickham's are totally fine. I'm all good. If Legacy had won, though, I'd go mental, though. I'd have had that as my bad point.
That's the thing. As soon as I'm out on a stage of pick'ems, I actually just low-key hate everybody that's on that influencer sheet. Just so fails. It brought me more joy than almost anything when I found out. I think that during stage 3, when it was just Ash at the Austin Major and he failed it, I was like, thank God, no one got Diamond. It's like there's nobody. Only nobody's got Diamond at that point, so I don't have to feel that bad if I didn't get it.
Basically, even though it's totally abstract and there's no money involved, we're all like crypto haters, where if I was shitting tanks, we want everyone to just fucking get wrecked and I lose all their bags. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
And low-key, one thing I will always say does mildly piss me off. It doesn't really, because I never understood why it would go up, but I actually did have that story, Anders knows this back in the day, where a certain individual in esports did have loads of Bitcoin, and they were like, it's already up to 2,000, and I was like, well, it's already 2,000, there's no point me buying in. And they were like, no, you should buy in now. I'm like, you idiot, it'll never go higher. And then like when it was like 100k, I was just like, yeah, fuck. Wait a minute. Suddenly that 2k looks like the $1 it used to be. What was I thinking? Anyway, whatever. It's all good. Although I will say, another person, Anders will know who this is. There was another person in esports I think's a bit of an idiot and a bit feckless. And they had probably the funniest crypto conversation I've ever heard, which is they were going to the person who had all the crypto and it was worth like 200k. They were going, oh, right, yeah. So I just buy the crypto like this and it goes up, doesn't it? And he goes, well, I mean, I can't guarantee that. And he goes, well, then what makes it go up then? And he goes, well, again, like no one, it's a market, isn't it? No one knows. And he goes, so should I buy it now or not? And he goes, well, I don't know. You know, you could if you want. And he goes, but then what if I don't buy it? And it goes up. And I was going, get them, it's fucking gambling. Just get the point. Like
the first time.
But if it was guaranteed it went up, we'd all just fucking do it. If it was like a video game item, we'd just buy it. What were you idiot? Like how dare you tell us that guy is how he thought the world worked? Like, just tell me which harvest will come in next. What will it be? Like, no one knows, mate. You know, that's half the game, some would say. But anyway, enough about mistakes from the past and things that we could have done differently financially. What is Maui's ugly point?
I went through a few different teams just because I'm obviously focused on the major. I don't know who I'm more disappointed in. I think I'll just go with the more obvious answer because I had them as my 3-0. Is Legacy. I would just say that's my ugly point. I felt like there was a lot of factors that were building into the major that made me feel like they were a surefire pick to make it through. to the next stage. And actually, I want to ask Thorin, when you did your pick'ems and you made it, did you have Legacy as 3-0?
Yep.
That's why you needed them to lose to PARIVISION?
I had Legacy and FaZe
okay,
3-0.
Yeah, I had that too. It just felt like made the most
same.
sense in terms of personnel and recent form for all these teams. Maybe not FaZe's recent form, sure, but personnel-wise.
No, you thought, what if they all just turn up and shoot these noobs? Like, yeah, they're fucking 3-0, don't they?
Yeah, and the thing is that there was some doubt. I'll even be real. I had some doubt after the CAC victory that Legacy could replicate that, because I think there was an overperformance by Lux. I think there was an overperformance by some of the supportive pieces. I think the conversation regarding Legacy for however long has just been who's better, Dumao or Lado. But then we started to see more contributions from the unlikely suspects, namely their Opera and Sadzin and their IGL and Lux. And I think that what we just unfortunately just saw was Lux is just he's just coming back down to earth. Like, this dude is kind of, he had a really great run for those two events of the PGL Masters Bucharest, where I then said to myself, okay, they have to be legitimate, because if he can do it for 2 tournaments in a row, got on a plane, went from continent to continent, and still was able to perform at a high level, then it must be legit. And then he just becomes the IGL that I never even thought he could be, which is a hindrance to the team, because he started thinking more about what needs to be accomplished in the round on an individual level and the information they need. Like, he just started making the plays that I always see with IGLs, where it just looks dumb. It just looks like an unnecessary push that your team was maybe a little bit confused, and so you thought you were the guy that needed to be the info gatherer. And I like the active style that Legacy plays still, but I think Lux just kind of went haywire in terms of his own individual play, and I was surprised that the other players couldn't bring it back. So yeah, my ugly point in general is just Legacy not making it through the stage, let alone as a 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think that point is even more true just because it was such a wild story in Austin, and sometimes you almost feel like you get robbed a little bit as the audience members, because you build up this incredible momentum. Everyone's excited. They shouldn't have even been in Austin, and then Bestia fucked something up, and here we go, and they deliver like this incredible storyline. But when it doesn't go anywhere, I feel the disappointment immediately, and that's kind of been, I think that's been my feeling for Legacy, kind of more or less ever since. Like, it just hasn't had the same kind of sparks flying. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I had them as my 3-0 as one of the pick'ems, along with FaZe, which again, it's hard not to argue that does make sense, but they just didn't play up to it. Also notice that they're one of these teams, I mean, it's an isolated case. I think they end up playing Train against FlyQuest, but they're one of these teams that will...
Oh, that was so weird. Yeah.
They'll end up playing Train, but they'll like, their CT side will be fine, but then their T side is just non-existent. And it's just like, it's a classic Train move right now, and it's very frustrating that some teams can't foresee that coming. It's like, well, you know what's going to happen here. Like, it's a dangerous map for that reason. So yeah, I don't even have that much to add necessarily, other than the fact that they don't look anything like the same team like that we're all expecting. And yeah, it seems like worse teams made their way through, and they even played like the teams they played, right? Like, they beat Red Cannons and Rare Atoms. Like, you even got to play some of these teams that you should beat every time, and you did, fair enough. But then all the rest of them you just kind of got wrecked against.
I think the most brutal thing, is why I'm glad it's in ugly and not bad. The most brutal thing is if you contrast where they were at the last major and this one. Remember, when they won, got the gig, that wasn't even supposed to be them. It was supposed to be the best of your team. Essentially, someone fucking up a visa or a player not being eligible is the only reason they got to that major. But then they got there and they beat Vitality in that game. Look, they did fuck all after that. But that moment was like, that's like some fucking rags to riches shit. Like, holy shit, you're only in the tournament, you've done something. Now you come to this one, like I said earlier, bro, if anything, you should have been actually thinking, if we have like a little catch fire run, maybe we like nick a playoff spot. Yeah, sure, you're probably never going to go further than that. You're probably never going to like, get to the semis. But there's like a crazy world where everything goes insane. They get the best draw ever, and they like at least get to like stage 2 or 3, and then maybe there even is a universe where you get the right opponent in the 2-2 game, and you get to that. Now you're out in stage 1, and as everyone knows, the reason we're all bagging on stage 1 is, by the way, that's actually another symptom of VRS works. It put all the good teams in stage 2 and stage 3. The joke of phases, mate. The fact you're even in stage 1 is like, you fucked up, son. Like, because these are are the bad teams. In fact, I even looked at most of the matchups and I was like, even the seeding's pretty good on this. This is actually like, VRS works, mate. We've sort of organised the major how I'd want it organised. But as a result, the idea Legacy can't even get to stage 2 is brutal. And especially now, because they were like 2 rounds from it or something mental like that. And the other thing as well for me is, first of all, if I'm the Lato guy, bro, that's some Elo hell shit. I don't know what you were supposed to do differently. You just fragged out the whole tournament. Like, you fragged out and then they just couldn't win. Even on, by the way, the deciding map against PARIVISION, everyone except the Lux guy pretty much was fragging. They were actually out fragging PARIVISION. One thing that's weird about PARIVISION is they don't actually have crazy numbers, guys. They do that thing where they just win the rounds that they need to. Like, the rounds they win, they get the kills on. The other ones, they get fragged. Like, if I was Legacy, I would feel all day like I'm winning that game, mate. And obviously, as well as Lux, I'll tell you the other guy who is going to be fucking waking up in a sweat is the Nissim guy. Mate, that fucking flank he had where he didn't get the kill where he tried to tap him. That's nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
If you get that kill, that totally your team can swarm the site. Oh, it changes everything. You have the middle position for the rotate. Oh, there's so many things to happen differently. But because he fucked it up, then like PARIVISION was just like on some like destiny shit where they had to win the game. I think it's fucking brutal, mate. And then also, yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Well, well, you could finish because mine's kind of like a meta thing.
I mean, basically, my biggest point is this. Here's the saddest thing. I'll close the way I started. Here's the bomber. As you guys very eloquently and quite accurately pointed out about their recent run, and yeah, some parts of it are easier, but then some of it was replicated. And in general, they look like, they're sort of like earning our respect and becoming like a cheeky little team that can get upsets, right? After this stage now, if they come back, because we're going to have this player break now, and then you're going to come back next year, if they get reset back down to they are just like the 30th best team, then what a bomber. That was your window right there. And unfortunately in life, this is one of the reasons actually why, if you're Nico, I'll tell you a really weird counterintuitive thought. You know what, mate? You have an incredibly blessed career. Here's why. You might think, what the fuck are you talking about, Thorin? I've never won the major. Mate, you're still getting chances to win the major like 10 years in this motherfucker. I know some really great players, by the way. Guardian's one of them. They had like a 2-year span to win the major or something like that. Like, they weren't on the teams that could do it. So when you have windows in CS, you've got to take advantage of them. You can't wait forever.
Even the original NIP lineup had a very short run to, like, they probably shouldn't have won the major that they won.
No.
And then the first one, so like, you're right, that's a really short. I was just going to also say that the player that's going to be receiving the worst out of anyone at the stage 1 has got to be history on that new game.
My God.
Holy shit.
Oh my God. And red cannons, yeah.
That was so brutal. I just,
Lord.
throwing it out there.
The meta point though that I had as a follow-up to the bringing up Legacy and the Ugly that I didn't say the first time is that so there's this other discussion with the major regarding, is stage 1 even good or necessary? And I want to believe that if you run a 32 team tournament, that teams that are in the first stage have a chance to win the tournament. And for my money, there is no chance that any of these teams will make it that far. And if you look at Austin, not a single team from stage 1 actually made it to even the playoffs of the major. And now that this is the second major with a stage 1, so 32 teams that are involved, Legacy, for my money, was the team that had the best chance to make it to the playoffs. Because frankly put, if there's just no way that a team that starts the major can even win it, why is it part of the tournament to me? Like, I just feel like the disparity in the level of the teams and the road that they have to go through is so rigorous and challenging that why is it even part of the competition as a whole? I get that the whole, the incentive for the stickers and everything like that, but I'm saying from a purely competitively driven narrative, if there's no team that really can actually make it from stage 1 all the way to the playoffs, then I just think this is a wash. I just don't think that stage 1 is really even a necessary component to the major if no teams actually can make it that far. So it's just like seeing another favorite go through this arduous road of BO1s, having to play a whole extra stage when they were already in good form, but still not being able to do it. It just makes me think stage 1 is to me, it's still like connecting that to the rest of stage 2 and beyond it's so distant for me.
Well, I mean, the subtext for my Pickham's point was basically that the quality of games in stage 1 just wasn't that good. I think for like, there are a lot of games where it feels like I'm watching, like, in a way it's a mirror effect of me, my first point, which was about, the tier 2 space. Like, some of those teams almost seem like they were they had better basic protocols than some of the teams that were at stage 1 of the major. And I recognize that it's a different environment and online Counter-Strike's different, all the rest of it. But like that I legitimately think there were a lot of teams there that just they were missing some of the basics, unfortunately.
It's why actually one of the points people have sort of theory crafted and spitballed is you actually could just take stage 1 and rename it the major qualifier. It almost feels more that kind of a vibe, like, because that's the problem with how good VRS got. It sort of sorted all the top teams out. Like the joke is, it was even right about FaZe. They are just sort of trash. Like they did deserve to be down there battling, and they barely were making it out themselves. They weren't even 3-0 win.
True.
Yeah. So and now obviously the problem with pick'ems is one, it's really hard to predict, isn't it? Know what's going to happen in CS, and you win fuck all. You get a coin, but it's just an imaginary one, isn't it? That nerdsy inside the game. So that's why I want to now shout out our other sponsor, Kalshi, because Kalshi is the only federally regulated prediction market in the US. It actually has real approval from the CFTC that they're allowed to do these prediction markets. So one of the cool things is, one, you can actually use it to kind of see where is community sentiment at? What do people think is going to happen? What are people vibing with at the moment? Also, when you do the trades, etc., obviously you can yourself benefit as a result of it. It's not just some imaginary stuff. And by the way, they have way more than just esports. They have sports. They have things like inflation.
They have a thing where you can predict. They have a thing where you can predict when Spotify Wrapped comes out.
Yeah, there's like a lot of those things. Yeah, there's loads of like weird cultural things you can go with as well. So whatever
Grammy winners
whatever you're into, whatever you think you're smarter about, this is the spot to go on. So in esports as well, I can tell you they've got a pretty good angle too. By the way, essentially the way it works quite simply is if the contract is priced at let's say a random number, 50 cents, then that means basically that there's a 50% chance of that happening. So when you go on the site and you pick the yes or no, that's what that translates to. And so another thing to say as well is, as a result of its federal status, it is the only place you can trade on these kinds of events legally in 50 states in the US. And we're going to pull one up now. So I was looking on there for what ones I thought would be interesting. And I saw one that's an immediate interesting one. If you think of what we love to talk about in CS, if you go into the esports section and you put events, then it has, will Zero be the MVP at the Budapest Major? Now, here's what's funny. You're going to see it's at 23 cents for yes, which means a 23% chance. Now, hold your horses. Before you go, wait a minute, only 23% for Zero. That's because it's against the entire field, guys. He probably has to win the event to do that. 23% is actually a very high number, by the way. And by the way, I agree with this. If I was going to pick, I would absolutely pick yes here. I think that Vitality has a very good chance to win the event and also, by the way, make the final. He's one of those players that can win the MVP from the final. So if I had to pick someone against the whole field right now, by the way, we're still 2 stages out as well. I absolutely think that's an excellent one. I would say I would pick yes for that one. I would take Zero. I think fan sentiment is right on that one, and I don't think it's exaggerated. I also think if you look at the team strength, he's also in a team, by the way, unlike certain other players, like Donk, where the others can help him get there too. He can have a bad game and still make it through, and then he can carry the final. So I think that's an excellent angle, actually, personally. That's the angle I would take there. So that's the trade I would make. And if you want to try out Kalshi, they're giving out $10 to anyone who signs up using our link and trades $100. So the link is, the promo, is LFN. So you go to kalshi.com/LFN, check it out, obviously, before it gets to the point where we've decided the major MP. You've got a bit of time for that one. Also, as well as that, if you go onto the site and you go onto Counter-Strike 2, they have things like the winner of individual games. So we've got the first round matchups of the next stage of the major. They even have stuff where if you go to like the futures market, they let you do stuff like pick will Fury or Falcons win the major. And then you can pick on those ones. Fury is at a 28%, slightly higher than Falcons at a 25%. So there's a bunch of really interesting ones there you can go with. You can even pick will certain people qualify through stages, etc. They even have things about who will win ESL Impact. So pretty interesting concept, bit different than usual. Thank you to Kalshi for sponsoring this one. Obviously, get the $10 by using our link and going to kalshi.com/LFN and trading $100. And then you can check out all these markets. And as pointed out by Mary and the others, it doesn't have to be about esports even. Right. The last point of the show, of course, belongs to me, because why wouldn't I design a show where I get the last word? And you know what? If there's one thing Thorin loves, I won't lie, it's a little bit of contrarianism, but it's more, I just like to be right when I think a lot of people are wrong, which I know sounds like contrarianism, but I won't force it. Like, I don't really sit down and go, what do you think? then I think not that. Which I will say is how my haters operate, I know. It's like, the joke is, if I really did go, I love drinking water to be hydrated, they'd be like, right, Diet Coke it is then. That's the only drink I ever drink now. Like, some people are like that. But here's one area where I'm really mad at fans. Because as usual, they've done the mad overcorrection that's ruined their own fucking position. Right? On this show, and through my interview with him, I like to think I played a tiny little role in Ash from Gamer Legion becoming known as a coach who has quality, who can scout players, who can set people, who can develop talents, who can pit the squad around them and give them a chance against better teams. It wasn't just that he had that one Gamer Legion team 2 years ago that made the fluky run at the Budapest Major because Ima had the tournament of his life. He's proven it since that. He had snacks as his IGL and was fucking around beating top teams like FaZe when they were the best in early CS2. More recently, you could even go to the first season. They were always like a threat to be a playoff team and to upset squads and get the 3 maps against them. The problem is this. I never told you he was the best coach in Counter-Strike. He just got a lot of exposure off it, and then crucially he capitalized in a very clever way, which is he did his YouTube channel where he broke down other teams, and he did it in such a fair-minded way. People got to hear how he thinks about the game, and all of a sudden, if you watched any forum for the last 3 or 4 months, every time a G2 needed a coach, a Team Liquid needed a coach, and not any team, people wanted this guy in there. They wanted him recruited to the best teams in the world and given the best players. And everyone even said when he re-signed with Gamer Legion, what are you doing? You should be in the best. You should be in Team Liquid, bro. Here's what's so sad. The recent form of Gamer Legion, where they've been a bit scoffed, and then now this total failure at the major, bro, people have turned on, this is my ugly point, they have turned on him so hard. They've done that thing they do in CS where he isn't just someone who had like a bad squad now. He's a total fraud. He doesn't understand anything about ARPing. He did just have that one, all of a sudden he did just have one run 2 years ago where he got carried by Immer or something, you know. What I hate is they've gone too far the other way, mate. I was never saying he was the best, but I was saying there's clearly something there. There's something to how this guy operates. He's getting more out of his squad. And lastly, the reason I'll also say I think this one's really unfair is because, bro, when people criticize some of his pickups, I want to say to them, you have to be fair. A rule you need to do when you say someone has to do something different is you tell them what to do different. Who should he have picked up? Because the names I see them saying, bro, he never could have gotten. That player wouldn't join Gamer Legion. They wouldn't have the money to join him. And also they get offers from like way bigger teams. So even if these teams you might not think are as good, they have way more money, bro. And so I'm sorry, he couldn't go and pick certain star players that we all like that went to big teams. Like that was never an option. He's always going to have to work when he's in Gamer Legion with a bit of like, I'm going to take a piece I'm going to have to get a res that people think's washed. And then I'm going to get a guy that hasn't made it yet, like Pian. I'm going to put him forwards. And then I'm going to gamble him with a Towson who no one was even looking at in the other squad. That's what he has to do. So I think his job is also one of the hardest as well. So as a result, you will have failures if you do that. So that's my point. I think people turning on him is so harsh.
Yeah, I mean, that is it's a very community-based reaction. We see it all the time. I think I have a lot of respect for Ash also because of exactly what happened with Kersey, that pickup that he had, the French AWPer. I actually think it's awesome that they picked it up. It wasn't working. They made a quick decision to turn it around and say, we need something else. I think when something isn't working, one of the worst things that can happen is that you give it another, a long time. But also as a result, obviously, they come into the major with a lot less runway on someone like Hypex. But I've seen some of the hatred too for Ash, and I just think you would have to be crazy to say that it's just a one-time thing and that it's just that there isn't more behind this. And he actually is doing the thing that almost sort of bounces off my point about, the economy of the space and player salaries. He is actually building stuff from, I don't want to say scraps, but he is picking up some of these players that don't have nearly as much hype about them. The salaries aren't going to be as high, and then making like really deep runs and making him. I mean, this major was a failure, but in general, like being a dangerous team all throughout, I think it's fantastic to see that, and it's actually what we need more of. So yeah, but the community does this all the time, right? As soon as someone's having it goes with players too. Like they could have 1 or 2 bad games, and then suddenly that's it. They're trash. They're out.
The community whiplash on Ash has been similar to Zonic, but on a smaller scale. I might even go as far to say that the Zonic criticism was more warranted than Ash's, because even though both of them have a lot of control of the rosters that they work on, Zonic has, in essence, infinite money in comparison to Ash. So Ash is the guy that has to go through the scraps and try to figure out who the diamonds in the rough, and find out who he can mold, because some of the players that he picks up aren't immediately perceived as being stable forces or being up and coming stars or anything. That's him. He found these guys and then said, and then everybody recognized that while these players were under Ash's tutelage, that they are worth looking at. I mean, Navi poached Ema from him. You know, like there's player Rez's career has been resuscitated under Ash. I mean, PR was nobody before Ash. Like legitimate. Like I don't. What was he on, like Mao's NXT or something like that? It was just, you know, there's so many players that he's working with that were really like Tossin's last 3 months, which have looked quite good, came out of absolutely nowhere. Like there's way more instances of individuals looking like their best or the best they've ever been, or they're rising to new heights under him than Zonic, if I'm being real. Like if I do the 1-to-1 comparison here. And the community in general Thorin says he doesn't really want to be a pure contrarian. The community does. The community definitely does, because they see that a player or a coach is getting even a modicum of attention, and because they weren't the first person to scout that player or to scout that coach or to be the person that was first on the scene to say Ash is actually good, then they have to go against the grain and say, nah, he's not all that. It's just that the criticism is never really fair. There's a disappointment that befalls Gamer Legion and Ash as the results here at the Major and in this season haven't lived up to what they accomplished prior to it. But to call him a fraud is clearly it's just the terminology. It's always hyperbole, isn't it?
And it's even worse that he's bald, because the saying in football is bald fraud. It's like, fucking hell, bro, give me a break.
Oh wow.
That's really,
unironically. I thought that phrase was something that you and Richard created.
No. It's because it's basically the guy who was by the way, the joke is it's the guy who's the coach of Manchester City that won everything, mate. But they called him a bald fraud, the guy Guardiola who's the coach, because he's famously bald.
Just also as a historic point of view, like both Duncan and Richard have come up with many nicknames for Moses over the years.
That's
it's
true.
kind of a trend, and some might say it's a tradition. I mean, just also.
I still think my favorite one is like, what is it, like Little Momo or whatever. That's the best one. That is still the best one. Still.
Oh, poor Jason. People will never know what he had to go through.
No.
Just I also worth saying, maybe when people say why doesn't he just pick up like a tier 1 AWPer for this team, you're misunderstanding the whole point of like his system for doing this. It's so it almost reveals like you just don't understand what the purpose is of him being able to mold the players to play the kind of Counter-Strike that they want to play. Like it's a fundamental.
It's also just like the young man's folly, because they always think everything's so easy. It's like that stupid thing where, if you talk to someone who's young and you say like some problem you got into, they go like, I just wouldn't even have gone to that place. Like, you didn't know what was going to happen there. Like, I would have just not died, or I would have just won. Like, mate, that's because you're sat in a chair thinking about this stuff. You're not actually having to put your skin in the game and do something, are you?
Pick better lottery numbers is the takeaway.